Views and opinions expressed in this production are those of the individual and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Shooters Nation or our sponsors. Information provided on this show is not a replacement for legal counsel or professional training. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows.
Welcome to the Shooters Nation podcast, the show created for you, the armed citizen. Join our hosts and subject matter experts as we talk about guns and gear, practical training and knowledge, Second Amendment issues, and the firearms culture. Be sure to join us after the show at shootersnation.com and become part of the Shooters Nation.
Welcome to the Shooters Nation podcast, everybody. As usual, there's a little bit of business to take care of before we get started, so let's get right on into that. First and foremost, we hope that you'll subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, or whichever outlet you use to listen. We also hope that you'll leave us a positive review on those outlets to help other people just like you find our show and become part of the Shooters Nation. We also want to remind you that you can connect with us after the show in various places on the interwebs. On Instagram, we are at Shooters Nation Radio, and you'll find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Shooters Nation. Don't forget, while you're on Facebook, sign up for the Shooters Nation community. That's where you can interact with us. That's where you can interact with some of our guest subject matter experts. And that's also where you can interact with some of your fellow audience members. You can also always find us in the latest episodes of the podcast at shootersnation.com. Be sure to sign up for our mailing. Let me try that again. You can also find us and the latest episode of the podcast at shootersnation.com. Be sure to sign up for our mailing list while you're there. Why is it so weird to say mailing list? I'm having a hard time with that. Anyway, last, if you like what you're hearing, we hope that you'll consider supporting the show by becoming a Patreon patron at patreon.com/shootersnation. I can say all those P's, but I couldn't say mailing list. You can do this for as little as $2 a month. That helps me get speaking classes. Just kidding. It doesn't really do that. In return for the, because if it did that, then I would be better at this. But in return for your kindness, our patrons often find out in advance who our guests are going to be, and they can submit questions for us to ask them on the show. So, man, that was painful. My name is David Yancey. Mark Lancaster, unfortunately, could not make it this evening to record with us. He had other commitments. So filling in for Mark and co-hosting with me again today is my wife, Sandy. Hello, Sandy.
Hello. I'm so happy to be back for this episode.
You didn't save me a bit. You didn't even try to jump in there and rescue me during that painful intro.
No, I don't want any part of that intro.
Yeah,
that is so many
wordy.
words. Yeah.
You know what's crazy about that is that when I wrote it, in my head, it flowed. But then I start talking, and now I'm involved, and that just wrecks the whole thing.
It's over.
So
yeah.
it's over with. It's terrible. Maybe the guy that needs to write that needs to go rewrite that. Make it simple. Small words, short sentences, some grunts, some banging here and there, and then be done with it, right? So anyway, we are about to let the listeners hear a conversation that you and I just had with Kevin Dixie of No Other Choice, and also of Aiming for the Truth.
Yes.
That was a fun, lengthy conversation, and I am thrilled with how it turned out. I don't know about you.
I am too. It is everything I hoped it would be and more. And I'm still a little speechless about the whole thing. I mean, it's just a fantastic, fantastic conversation. Really, we just got to listen to him talk.
Right.
Which was just the best.
Yeah, it is.
He has some amazing things to say.
Well, and he's got a passion for this. I mean, as he says several times through the conversation, this is his mission. This is what he really believes that he was put on this earth to do.
Yeah. I mean, you can just hear his heart in every word he says. And that's what drew me to him to seek him out as a guest for the show in the first place. Is just he's honest. You can tell that he's real. He's full into this,
Right.
This is who he is. It's not a show. It's not a game. It's not, something to be a celebrity. This is his passion.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, and I'm not throwing rocks at these people, but there are people in the Second Amendment industry that are doing it because it's easy money for them, right? It's something that they enjoy doing. And, I don't fault them for that. truth be told, if I could somehow figure out how to make the Second Amendment society and culture and the industry and the media and everything else that I enjoy doing, make that my full-time employment, I would do it too.
Yeah.
Why not put food on the table doing something you enjoy doing? But Kevin, he's a guy that would do this I'm convinced he's a guy that would do this even if it cost him more money than it could ever bring him in.
Yeah.
He is committed to doing it.
It already is. He's already putting his own money into it.
Oh yeah. So, listeners, here's an interesting bit about this. So Mark and I, we were walking through the exhibit hall at the NRA annual meeting in Indianapolis just 2 weeks ago, and it was on Saturday. And Sandy, you'd given me pretty much strict orders that the one and only person that you cared about me finding on the show floor was Kevin Dixie.
Yes.
And you asked me if I knew anything about him. And, honestly, I said, well, the name's familiar, but I don't know that I've really sat down and listened to his material before. Why do I need to meet this guy? And you said, just meet him. Just meet him. If it's kind of like if you don't, there's gonna be hell to pay, right? Don't come back without having met Kevin Dixie.
I only gave you one thing to do. Like, just do the one thing.
Pretty much that was
the
it.
Thing.
You had dragged our kids around the show floor with me for a day and a half by that point, and I wasn't going to argue with you. If you told me I was going to meet a guy, I was going to go meet a guy.
It's a good strategy.
It was a good strategy. It kept me alive. So Mark and I are walking through the floor, and we had been walking together for a little while, which was interesting. It was like, the first time that Mark and I had met in person, period, for a year of us doing this. Like, we had never met before in person.
It was like your stroll on the beach.
It was like it was really our stroll along the beach,
there was
right?
doves singing and, choirs playing.
It was great. Yeah, all those things happened. So, we had a small child running in front of us throwing rose petals as we walked together.
No, that was our daughter.
That was our daughter.
Stickers
and candy and
and
swag
and
things. So, but so Mark and I are walking through the show floor, and I saw Kevin, and he was standing there talking to a lady, and I stopped Mark and I said, "Hey, I need to talk to this guy for a second." And Mark, okay. And so, he was Kevin was chatting with another person, and right as it seemed like she was done talking to him, the poor guy probably wanted to go get a drink or walk or
He's
anything.
Probably on his way to
right?
another
Probably
appearance.
on his exactly.
Yeah,
right?
a long list of things to do.
And so what do? I jump in there real quick, and I'm like, Kevin Dixie, David Yancey, Shooters Nation podcast. How's it going? And good dude. He's like, hey, what's going on? And act like he could never meet a stranger, right? And which was good because they don't come much stranger than me. And I said, hey, here's the deal. Again, Shooters Nation podcast. I've been told that I have to get you on our show, period. And if you don't, my wife's going to be really upset, and you don't want that. And he laughed, and we started chatting. And within just, a minute, he'd said, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Right. And I said, okay, great. And so my normal thing for a guest before we bring them on is I ask, what's burning on your mind right now? What's pushing to the top of your mind? What are you passionate about? What's really getting your attention lately that you want to talk to our listeners about? And he looked at me, he said, yeah, you know what? He said, I don't do it that way. He said, you come up with a thing, you invite me, I'll be there. I don't want to know what it is. He said, it feels scripted to me if we do that, which we have notes here on Shooter Nation podcast, but we don't really like script our conversations. And he said, but no, I don't want to know. Cold turkey, I'll show up, we'll do it, and we're good. And so we have 3 hours of proof that when you're passionate about something and you believe in something and you're very well informed and you have educated yourself on a subject to the degree that Kevin has, you can talk about it for 3 hours without having notes and without having an agenda. Right. So, it was fun. I forget who it was, but somebody, it was actually Mark and I were talking about a former guest that was on the show. And that individual too, Mark said, what's great about them is you can just kind of like, you ask a question and you're basically pressing the play button and then you just stand back and watch it happen. Right. And Kevin, was kind of that. I mean, he has a message that is just burning in him that he wants to get out there. And, I think it's one of empowerment. It's one of just telling people that their lives are valuable, that their lives are worth saving. And he's driven to really our mission, which is to prepare people for the worst days of their lives. Right. And so, you'll hear that story come up several times, and he's fearless. He reminds me so much of Tiffany Johnson. He's not afraid to talk about tough issues, and I appreciated the grace and the generosity that came with being able, willing to sit down with us and just let us ask questions from a, I don't know what position to say it's from. It's like, a position of naivety. I don't have experience with some of the things that he has experience with. So, he didn't expect me to ask it a certain way or you to ask it a certain way. It was just, be honest. Let's be real about this conversation and don't try to make it perfect. Just get it out there and then let's talk about it. Yep. So it was fun. It was really fun.
It was great conversation, great things to think about. It was great information. There's a really cool gun that shows up towards the end. Yeah. So lots of stuff to look for. And it's worth a listen. So use that pause button because this is a long one. Come back to us.
Yeah. Well, probably had to clear my throat there a second. It is a long episode, but our listeners have said before in our recent survey that they wanted long episodes, right?
And we have delivered.
We delivered, and this may be the longest one yet, which is awesome.
Yep.
And not only that, but Mark and I are really trying to get episodes out every week now, once again, and I'm glad to do it. Right? I mean, especially when I get to hang out with people like Kevin and talk about issues like we talked about tonight. I could have talked about it for 3 more hours, easy. So, great guy, friend of the show now. I'm going to be looking for ways that we can help him out and help out with his mission. I think that what he's doing is really good stuff. And listeners, I don't presume to know who our demographic or what our demographic looks like and who our listeners are, but this has got something for everybody, period. It does, regardless of what race, gender, creed, religion, background you are. This episode's got it all. So I'm excited. And I think really at this point, unless you've got anything else to add to it. No? Okay.
Let's dive in.
That's it. All right. So we're going to dive into it. Folks, hang on for some spiffy transition music, and we'll move straight on into the interview with Kevin Dixie of No Other Choice and Aiming for the Truth. Hey folks, our guest today is Kevin Dixie. Kevin is the owner-operator of No Other Choice Firearms Training and the founder of Aiming for the Truth, which is a 6-spoked approach to healing broken families and strengthening the community bonds of neighbors to improve the lives of people in the cities and states of our nation. Kevin has been featured on NRA TV, America First Magazine, Time Magazine, Gun Freedom Radio, Firearms Network, Tom Woods Show, and dozens of podcasts. He appeared on the cover of the November 2018 issue of Time Magazine entitled Guns in America, What 245 Americans Think About the Issue. Kevin, welcome to Shooters Nation, sir. We're glad to have you.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, man. What's going on? How are you?
We're doing all right. We're doing all right. It's a stormy night here in Nashville, Tennessee, so I'm really praying and hoping that the internet stays up, the electricity stays on, and we can continue this conversation uninterrupted. I'm looking forward to this one. I've been looking forward to it all week.
Oh, that's awesome. Me too.
Very good. Yeah. Hey, all right. Well, you're in the right place. We like to talk. So, Kevin, let's just pretend that our listeners have never heard about you. And I think that that's probably not accurate. I'm sure that across our audience, folks have definitely heard of Kevin Dixie and they've heard of No Other Choice, but let's pretend that they haven't. Tell us a little bit about your background. What brought you to here today? And what is it that you do?
Oh, okay. Wow. Let me see if I can give you the short version. So as far as guns go, let me start there. That'll be an easy one. So how did I even get into believing in firearms? So my first experience with guns is a little bit different than the norm. All right. It's not the story of grandpa taking you out or dad taking you out or mom even going to hang out with you. It's totally different. So my interaction with firearms, the very first time that I had a memorable interaction with a gun, a buddy of mine comes down to my house and he's, a piece of beauty came out the corner of my eye. Hi, sweetheart. Okay, I'm here. Come get. I'm sorry. I got yelled at for eating potato chips. No. It happens.
Hey, that happens. Yeah, that's right.
I got my life threatened. So, sorry about that. So, hadn't seen her all day. So my buddy comes down to my house, and he gets me. He lives about a quarter block up the street. He's like, come here, you know, run up. I'm a 13-year-old kid. So we run up to his house, go into his parents' room, and he finds a gun, right? And so we're fidgeting around with this thing, trying to figure out how to get it loaded. We pumped the gun and we pumped ammo, and we figured it out, right? We got the thing loaded, took it out back, shot it. That took forever. We didn't know what we were doing. We finally shot it, and then shot it a second time, and, you know, heart's racing, you know, like, you're going to get in trouble, but that was kind of cool, you know, what's going to happen. And so I thought at first, initially, that I was really, really amped by the experience of shooting a gun. But that wasn't the case at all. The reason why I fell in love at that moment with the gun is because what I didn't know, and I didn't find out to roughly about a month later, give or take, I didn't know that because of my environment, which was dope dealing, prostitution, and this is the whole single mom, and where I lived was bad. Like, I tell people all the time, like, what do you guys see right now when you go outside and look at your intersection? What's there? Like, what do you see?
Grass, trees.
Yeah,
that's
trees.
about it. Yeah.
Okay. I think when it gets bad for people, maybe they see some kind of commercial entity, right? Gas station or, you know, something like that. Well, when I walked out, it was a commercial entity, but it was a tombstone retailer.
Oh, wow.
That set 4 houses down from me, right? And across the street from that was the city's largest cemetery. So seeing death and murder and prostitution and drug dealing and being in that environment every day, plus being a victim of foster care and rape and molestation, all that stuff, all plays into this. So I did not know that I was clinically depressed. I didn't know that until roughly 30 days later. So that was the enjoyment of the gun. It was thoughts of suicide.
Oh,
right?
Wow. Yeah.
That the gun could actually make all this pain go away, right? Finally, I found the cure to make my head stop hurting, to stop fighting and being angry. And I was a really, really angry kid. So somebody got a glimpse of it and was like, hey, man, I think you need to go talk to somebody. Long story short, we figured that out. And I was like, okay. So I started the path of making myself better. And that's how I got introduced to firearms. So that was my first introduction. As far as professional introduction, when I was 21, I was working for a cable company, and I was riding by our local police department. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna be a cop today. That's what I'm gonna do today, right now, today. So
right.
I pulled over. I turned on the little amber light on top of my my pickup truck. You know, I parked in front of the police station, walked in, you know, just cocky and strong. And I walked into the human resources office, and there was a sergeant standing there. The human resources lady, I was like, hey. They're like, yeah, well, how can we help you? Like, I'm here to be a cop. Let's do this. Where do we start? Let's go. Let's do it.
I love
it. And I've always been as a young man, especially, but I've always been polite. So it's my personality jumped off the page, and they knew it was like, all right, he's serious, but he's just got a personality, right?
Right,
so
right.
The sergeant comes over to me, and he puts his arm around me, and he starts patting my belly, because at the time I was pushing the limits a little bit over 400 pounds at the time.
Okay.
Right. So he made a joke about me and Burger King being really good friends. So I was like, okay. But he did like me. So they wound up offering me a job in our division called prisoner processing. Across the country, you would consider it to be a jailer.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Our division had a little bit more responsibilities than you normally see. So we were responsible for a lot of security details, working with the commission officers, doing all kind of different stuff. So what I didn't know at the time, I just took the job. They gave me a panel interview. I passed it. Like, I'm the one guy that walked into any city employment, whether it's public works or wherever. Like, everybody knows government is like some of the hardest places to get into. I walked in on a Monday and was working the next Tuesday.
Wow.
It was like, let's do this.
Right.
And so they threw me in the back of a paddy wagon. And I was like, this is kind of not what I signed for. This is the reverse, exact reverse. Of what but they threw us in the back of the paddy wagon and took us down to the police firing range, to the academy. And I got down there and I walked in this building. And, you know, I'm 21 years old. I walk in this building, and then my mouth just opened. Drool is coming out because I'm looking at tables just full of guns.
Nice.
I'm like, I died on the way here, because it's got to be heaven.
Right.
Because I don't know much about these things, but I'm naturally drawn to them. right?
Yeah.
And now my mind is in a better place. I'm not feeling what I was feeling before to that degree. So I'm like, now I'm just ready to enjoy it. And the baby of the bunch of the teachers had roughly 30 years of experience. So they're at the top of the class. Like, they see me come in and they're stone faced. So I'm kind of like, well, I'm about to liven your day up because we about to have some fun. And they get to talking about the guns and blah, 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 doing their whole spiel. And we get out to the range and we're standing there and everybody knows PD qualification tests are a joke, right?
They are.
So now at the time I'm not knowing, and I'm standing out there and I'm like, okay, the thing went bang. But then this is the spark for me. Why did it go bang? That was the first question I asked. Why? I know that I squeezed this thing called a trigger,
right?
Slow press to the rear. I get that. But why did it do what it did?
Right.
Why did you tell me to hold it like that? Why am I standing like this? Well, why am I shooting this gun and not the other guns? Well, what's the difference? Are those bullets bigger? Hey, what's that long thing over there? And I just start asking a bunch of questions. That's awesome. At first, they're used to people just coming in, like, doing the minimum, listening, and leaving, right?
Right.
So I'm getting on their damn nerves. But I'm like asking legit questions, like, I really want to know. And I'm standing there until I get an answer.
Yeah. And
then finally, one of the guys, he just looked at me and said, you want to know for real, don't you? I said, yeah.
Right.
And he was like, all right. So I started kind of stalking the academy. I was like, look, want to do this the easy way or the hard way?
Because you're not getting rid of me.
Yeah, you're not. Somebody's going to tell me the information. And you know what happened eventually? Some of the commission officers that were more into firearms, they I was a young kid, and the trainers, and they were just like, all right, this kid wants to know. This is what we asked for, right? You want people to be that enthused. Right. And so they did. They start teaching me, man. And from there, working with doing other things, eventually I started, that firearms training led me and being with the PD, doing all kind of secondary jobs, doing private security, doing EP, executive protection, bodyguarding services, working with the HRT teams. Then next thing you know, I'm running active shooter drills with the finest SWAT squads in the state of Missouri. Can't tell you how I got there. But I was just a kid that stalked it and loved it. And the guys realized I had a skill set. So from there, I was like, all right. My position with the PD was kind of unique because I was the one that was sending you off to Neverland.
Sure.
All right. Sometimes when you saw me, it was really bad.
Yeah.
A lot of times, actually. So I decided that there were, I would take that skill set and I would apply it because I've always been kind of a person to reach out and help people. I'm like, you know what, man? There are some really good people. I don't know if you guys know this, but there are honestly some really good people in the world. There really are. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they just do stupid stuff. Yep. Like come to my building. I'm like, and I noticed that a lot of times people were doing things in the name of self-defense that wasn't self-defense. It was pride and ego that they were responding to. And so I wanted to give people a training. I wanted to finally start training people, but I wanted to train them the right way. Because the other thing that was, my job was it's not for, hype of the show. Look, a lot of people play tough. My job was to deal with murderers. My job was to deal with the worst of the worst. That's what I did. So I had to also let people know that there are, real living creatures that walk this earth that will do horrendous things to you. Right. When you're watching the guy on the news, oh my God, he just shot 6 people. He's in my face, or the guy that just stabbed 4 people. Like you can watch it on the news. He's right here to me. So it was an experience that I wanted to share with people, but I wanted to keep them out of trouble, but I wanted them to be safe. Now, this is before I truly had a real true understanding of what the 2A was and all that. I just wanted people to be safe. So I started training through a philosophy, and I started just telling people, look, make sure you're at the point of no other choice before you ever do this. And then one day it clicked. I was like, that's who I am. That's the name. It's natural. So the philosophy is make sure you're at a point of no other choice before you ever place a negative impact on a human life, even if they deserve it, as long as you don't allow yourself or another innocent person to be hurt. Make sure you extend God's grace and mercy to an individual that you want extended to you. So that's where No Other Choice comes from. So when I jumped off into the training atmosphere, people have been knowing me for a while because I've been teaching people for years and years and years, teaching cadets that were scared about the qualification tests at the academy, teaching some people that will be arrested that were hitting people with clubs and things like that. And they were like, well, if I know how to use a gun, if they didn't get charged, the charges dropped. Well, I would be like, hey, I'll train you, and just started doing that kind of stuff. And then when I LLC'd back in 2013, I LLC'd and decided to do it on a larger scale. And I think that when I jumped out here, and it was just 3 years ago when I decided to cut on a camera and start talking publicly. And when I did that, I think it was a breath of fresh air for the industry, because people were like, No Other Choice. And at first everybody thought it was, and James Yeager is the dude that harasses me the most about that. Everybody thought it was, No Other Choice, like I'm the best guy out, don't go anywhere. Right. It's like No Other Choice. And Yeager knew what it was, but he was the first guy to really razz me about it, have a good time with it. But it was people looking at it like, oh man, something different than tactical.
Right.
Just a different approach, and something that you can tell to a person brand spank new and they get it. Like, oh, and then what I also, by this time I am deeply into 2A. By this time I turn on the cameras. And I was letting people know, like, hey guys, when you're talking about fighting and promoting and pushing the freedoms and liberties that we fight for, hey, guess what? Every time I'm not offended by it, but like, hey, every time I cut on the YouTubes or whatever, and I'm looking, it's all these dudes and all this plate carrier gizmos and blah, blah, blah. Now, me, from being in the training side of things and actually running with these dudes, I'm kind of like, that stuff don't make you tough.
Right.
Like, I'm like, right. I've seen that crap fail hundreds of times. So I'm like, that doesn't make you tough. But I get why the guys are doing it. I'm not knocking their training style. It was what the consumer market wanted.
Sure. That image.
They delivered. I mean, it is what it is. But I was like, I want to do this differently. And I think people really gravitated toward that. And I also told them that when we are trying to bring people into the fold, I'm still a 6 foot, 254 pound guy. So the last thing I want is don't get me wrong, I got gear just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But my everyday persona is not having a ton of that gear on, because I already have a bad case of RBF. All right. I'm already a large man, right? And the gear can be intimidating. So how am I going to get Susie and Anthony, who are thinking about coming to shoot guns and getting into the Second Amendment? They're going to be intimidated. They're not They're not no. But if I just wear a t-shirt and maybe a nice cool hat and be like, hey,
now it's accessible. Yeah.
So that's what got me into the training side. So I'll shut up and let you say something.
No. I mean, that is brilliant. That's our mission here. Is we wanted to do a podcast a year ago. We started this thing, and we wanted to do a show for the everyman. We didn't want, we're not high speed door kickers. We're moms. We're dads. We're we got people that are just trying to get through life and get home safe in the evenings. And that's what this is for. And there's a lot of material out there already for the guy that wants to put on a plate carrier and go run around and roll around in the dirt and shoot a tactical course on the weekend stuff. That's fun. It makes great stories to tell at the water cooler, on Monday when you're hanging around with the boys and stuff. But it's really not relevant to the average person. The average person, when the fight comes to them, God forbid that it really does, but when the fight comes to them, they're probably wearing shorts and sneakers and a t-shirt, and they may have groceries in their hand. And, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look high speed. It's a totally different animal. Right. And so I love that that's your approach, and you are making it accessible and relevant to the everyday person, which is powerful. I mean, that's really good. Really, really good.
Yeah. That's why I wanted you on our show, because, for me, that stuff is not relevant in any way, shape, or form, because there's no point in my life that I'm going to be doing that or in that position where I'm going to be using my firearm. And if I want to go take a class for fun, that's okay. But I don't even do that. If I want to do something fun, I'm going to take a nap, I've got two little kids. So for me, when I turn on YouTube, when I start looking for stuff, none of it looks like me. None of it looks like my life. And then I get to you and your channel and your message. And I'm like, yes, this I can understand, because I'm not a person who's looking for a fight. I'm looking for exact opposite. But I'm also a person that at a certain place, if you give me no other choice, I will act.
Yeah.
And so that's where I connected with you, even though we don't look very much alike. We have that same mindset and that same perception, and I'm just drawn to that message. And that's the message that I want to get to more people in our audience and more people that do look like me, that you don't have to have no other choice. There is a choice, and you need to be responsible about that and take it serious. But there is something that you can do, and it doesn't involve putting on 50 pounds of metal plates and rolling around in dirt.
No, I mean, so James Yeager, he's a Tennessee homeboy down here with us, not too far from where we are. And, I've taken classes with some of the people he's taught. I've never taken a class out at Tactical Response, but I've got good friends that have done it before, and they've come back and they said, it's kind of like a dude ranch for gun guys, right? I mean, it's kind of like, you go out and you suit up and you stay in the team room and all that fun stuff. And it's an experience. And you're going to learn some stuff too, but you get to come home, you get the pictures of you laying on your back, wearing a plate carrier, you're shooting your AK or whatever at a target. And it looks fun. It's invigorating, and it's a great story. But how is that relevant to you if the fight comes to you walking out of Walmart to your car? I mean, that's not the way it's going to unfold. And so,
well, I will say this.
Yeah.
So obviously they offer those kind of classes, but just it's not a shameless plug for Yeager. Well, it kind of is. He owes me now. But you can, the class that he has, fighting pistol, I highly advise you take it. It is nothing like the other elevated stuff.
Gotcha.
Trust me. In fighting pistol, there are plenty of 120-pound women and 160-pound dudes in shorts and t-shirts.
Awesome.
And you're encouraged to actually come essentially dressed like you would be on a daily basis.
Very good.
It's really meant to be that we are bringing you here to teach you how to fight. I've taken that class myself. And I looked at it with a more critical eye because, I'm an instructor. So I'm looking at it with a critical eye, and I enjoy it. And I would take that class 7 times over. So I would highly recommend you. I understand if your buddies took like the contractor classes and stuff like that.
Oh, they've done all of them.
That definitely that sounds like what you're describing. But the fighting pistol class, I kid you not, it is meant for everybody. And you can go in shorts, a nice, comfortable t-shirt, some good, comfortable shoes, a pistol and some mags, and have a great time.
That's good. That sounds a lot like the one. So the instructors that I was thinking of that we went through some classes with, they came back from that and a bunch of others. They did some Pat Rogers courses and some stuff like that. And they came back and they combined them into a format similar to what you're talking about. So that sounds really good. Yeah. I mean, it's worth looking into. They're close by, as are a couple of other trainers that we just need to really start taking advantage of. So that is very cool.
Coming up to Missouri, training with no other choice.
That's right.
That's the thing.
That's right. It is. And you guys are not all that far away. Not far away at all. So, all right. So tell us about No Other Choice then. What does the name mean and what's the company about? You do training and you've explained the philosophy of this is a last resort when you get to no other choice, right? But what exactly, if you had to kind of like give an elevator speech to somebody that was thinking about coming and training, but they just weren't sure, what would you tell them? How would you pull them in?
We evolve students. So my courses are titled Evolve, right?
Okay.
Because we're looking to evolve you as a performer with a firearm after we evolve your mindset. We want to help you develop a skill set based off where you are, not where I want you to be, not where, Call of Duty told you should be,
right,
not where your friends told you should be. I want to help develop you and help you evolve into a performer with a firearm that is a thinker first, somebody that can be methodical and productive with their mind before they ever have to go to any kind of weapon. So we spend a lot of time talking about conditioning the mind, how to fight, but how to avoid a fight first, but win it if you get into it. So we're looking to evolve you overall. So I am not going to bring, if you are wanting only, keyword there is only, if you're only wanting to be a tactical operator, I am not the school for you.
Gotcha.
If you are looking for an evolution from just picking up your first pistol all the way up to being able to run in teams, do more high-speed stuff, really know how to fight, if it means long guns, transitions, if it's plates, soft body armor, whatever, we can elevate you to that. You want to fight in and out of vehicles? Sure, do that all day. But I'm not going to sell you on that. My job is to make sure that you can actually survive an encounter if you can avoid it. All right. It is not to bring you here to have you put on a bunch of crap to make it seem like my classes are cool, just where I get a bunch of people coming up, shooting their guns, wearing their fancy gear, and they never really can perform. So that's what I tell people. Now, you can also look, like, especially after the end of this month, I'll talk about the event we're doing here at the end of the month. You can look and people will be like, oh, crap. Oh, you have that stuff? Yeah, like literally, I look that way and I see about, 6-7 grand worth of plate carriers and bills. All right. But that does what for you? What does it do for you? Now, when I go out and I do training, I'm up there in the mountains with Buck Doyle. Yeah, I was geared up and my gear was purposeful. When if I go take a contractor class at Jaeger, sure, I'll be geared up. When I teach my own stuff, sure, you'll see me with plates, you'll see me with that, but I am not selling you on that. I want to make sure that you can win with your shield, your little shield. You can win with a rifle. My job is to evolve you, not to sell you on how cool you can be at my class. So that's what I tell people. And you come train. The last time that I got a complaint, I will tell you, I did get a complaint. It was right before it got really cold last year. The gentleman looked at me, and he goes around, he trains at a lot of schools, pretty much what he does. He's like a professional student. And he looked me right in my face and said, I have a complaint. I was like, okay, let's go. I like it. Let's do it. He said, for the information I got over the last 2 days, you are far too inexpensive.
Gotcha.
The class should be triple the price. That was his complaint. So I don't have to put up the high speed, low drag videos. I don't have to, but I'll tell you what, you come to my class and stay with me, I can show you how to kick the high speed, low drag operator's ass.
Right.
So there's that. So
no. So, yeah, I saw on your Instagram the other day. I think it was that you'd posted some stuff where you went up and did the hunt with Buck Doyle. It was, you talk about cold. Y'all were covered in some snow, weren't you?
Yeah, man. So quick now, I have to say this. So if you are at a place to where you want to do something different, and you want to have a good time doing it, I would definitely say look into Follow Through Buck Consulting. That man. God, that was not training. That was an experience, and I keep telling people that. Yeah, so we were up in Raton, New Mexico. You know what kind of thing? I kind of thought New Mexico was like a made-up state. I didn't think it was real. So
right.
And I was like, oh crap, this place exists for real. I thought it was always made up.
Thought this is where Bugs Bunny always got lost, right? He always ended up in Albuquerque.
Wow. Did you know there's a Las Vegas, New Mexico? I want to point that out. Yeah. And it's like a big town. It was weird. I went there and went grocery shopping. It was too weird. But I digress. However, we went up there and I thought I was going the wrong damn way. I was in the wrong city when I saw this way to Las Vegas. I'm like, I'm not in the right place. We got up there, man. Several thousand feet above elevation. I'll tell you what, the weather changed on us we got about 6 different mixes of weather.
Right.
From temperature to snow to sun to rain. I mean, it was all over the place.
Oh yeah.
And we kept documenting it, and it was just crazy. So we did 3 days of scope carbine with Buck Doyle, and those pictures you can see me. I'm all in the Oakley stuff and yada 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 gear and get my proper gear on and stuff like that. But I tell you what, that was 3 of the best days that I've ever had. Great company, great gentlemen. We had, special operator dudes that were legit dudes. Buck himself is a legit, like, this ain't somebody that plays soldier. Buck he's about as soldier gets, right?
He's got the credentials. Yes,
he's damn sure does. And he's got the right mentality too. Right. Let me tell you what, that guy will make sure that you survive a fight.
Right.
And it was great. We went through the changes of weather. We got pushed by one of the best coaches I've had. I have never gotten a chance, besides like a setup thing at SHOT Show or something like that, or 1 or 2 rounds where I'm actually dialing out past 1,000 yards. I'm in Missouri. We got rolling hills and mountains everywhere.
Right.
A fight to us is 100 to maybe 300 yards, unless you got a piece of private property or a buddy that has it. So we really don't get a chance to stretch stuff out like that. So I can fight with a rifle, but my stuff is largely consumed around urban survival.
Sure.
Right. Some rural, suburban and urban, because that's what I'm a product of.
Right.
But within 3 days, and I'm okay with a gun, don't get me wrong, but within 3 days, that guy took me from the limited distance experience that I had on a regular basis to where I'm nailing a mile in 3 days, right? So, and with a gun that I had never shot.
Right.
So I wasn't even familiar with the platform, but he had me dialing a mile in 3 days. So you get a chance to go train with Buck.
That's awesome.
Go train with Buck. Yeah, it was fun. Noah was up there trying to be the handsome guy, but everybody knows I'm better looking. So he lost.
Man, we love it out there. We spent some time out in the high desert, and what you're describing is you go up elevation, the weather changes like, just crazy. And in the same piece of property, the more you go up, the more the weather changes. So yeah, they look like fun. All right, so on No Other Choice, let me ask you this: from a training perspective, what's the most challenging thing that you typically experience when opening a person's mind to the notion that not only can they be responsible for their own safety and protection, but that they should be, right? So somebody comes to you and they're kind of on the fence. What's the most challenging thing that you experience trying to open their minds to that whole process?
The most challenging, just fear.
Fear, okay.
Fear is really the most, I would say, the most challenging, because when it's something like fear and it's an emotional feeling, it's normally triggered by something, right? And so it's always stop. I immediately will stop talking about the gun and I try to deep dive into what the core issue is with them. And so that's why it becomes a little bit more challenging. So now you're dealing with the emotions of a human being. You're not just dealing with, hey, pick up a gun, hold it this way. The technique of teaching somebody how to shoot is not hard. Right. But dealing with the mindset around people can be a little challenging. So kind of sometimes digging into what is triggering the response and why they are fearful. And then once you have it, managing it and navigating around it so they are comfortable, right? And not doing that whole, trust me, you'll get over it after the first shot. Just squeeze the damn thing. Like, no,
right.
No. Doing it in a way. I've had people that have come to a class or signed up for one-on-one classes in the past and get there and we didn't shoot around.
Wow.
I've had that happen a couple of times. We didn't, because they weren't ready and I wasn't going to push them. And even when they were like, yes, let's do it now. I'm like, no, you're not ready. Nope, we're not doing it. Let's go talk. We can spend the last 15 minutes, go get a coffee or something like that, and let's just keep talking, right? And so what happens, and I hope anybody that ever teaches or is teaching listens to me. Sometimes your job as a coach, instructor of anything, your job sometimes is to prep the student for the lesson. A lot of times they're not ready for the lesson, and you have to be able to identify that. Build those personal bonds, especially if you're going to advocate for whatever it is you're doing. So if you're also going to advocate for more people being responsibly armed, your job might be to say this individual right now today is not ready to have a gun in their hand for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we still can't build a rapport, because now I am your connection. So let's make sure we cultivate this relationship and we sit and talk about why we might not be shooting today, but let us continue to build together. So, hey, I'm gonna check up with you Tuesday. And let's see how you are, right? And then 2 weeks later, they might come out to the range, take a deep breath, like, okay, I'm comfortable with you. Thank you so much for not embarrassing me, saying that, oh, I'm disappointed in you, and still talking to me and checking up on me. That's how you change. It's more challenging, but that's how you get people involved in the lifestyle more so than just going to the range.
Man, that is, you just described the best way that I've ever heard it described, the difference between an instructor who can walk you through the mechanics and tell you how the process works, and a teacher who's actually going to take time to tailor the delivery to you and get to know you and make this, again, accessible to you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any special training? Have you gone through training courses on mindset and on anxieties and fears and that kind of stuff? Do you have any counseling training or background, or is it just your personal experiences and dealing with so many people in your career?
Yeah, it's called the inner city and police work. Now the thing with me, I learned a lot about the mind to your point, when I was fighting off depression and anxiety, right? Mm-hmm. So going through counseling and understanding how to heal, it helped me identify a lot of different triggers in people, right? And then working in the environment I worked in, you better know how to read people, or you might not make it home. So just taking those real life experiences And then, and we can talk about aiming for the truth when we get to it, but then throughout having friends that are professionals, like degree professionals,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of sharing my experiences with them and how I analyze things, and for them telling me like, oh man, you're like, I've had a couple of them tell me you're in the wrong career field. You should be doing this. So it just was, I was like, okay, cool. I'm not going to try to be your therapist, but I know enough to make sure that you're okay. Right. Even if it's you're okay until we get you to the therapist.
Right.
And so it's taking what my experience, my observation skills and situational awareness skills and people reading skills from my career, and then translate it, and my survival, right? Because take it for what it's worth, but when you're in any environment, you could be a kid in Iraq or it could be a kid in inner city St. Louis.
Sure. If
your environment is chaotic, you better learn how to survive, right? So it's, and read people and understand and be able to navigate personalities and stuff like that. So taking all those experiences when it comes to dealing with somebody having a fear or having a condition or not being okay with a thing, it's easy to notice, and it's easy to address. Easier to address than I think the consequence of rushing somebody through something.
Or ignoring it. Yeah, for sure. So you mentioned healing. Tell us about aiming for the truth, because from what I've read up on, if I had to put it in a word, healing is a good one, or at least a good place to start. So tell us about that initiative, what you're doing there, and what your approach is.
You know, I'm gonna say this. Aiming for the truth is who I am. Firearms training is awesome. It's great. I love it. That is something I'm very good at, and I believe I have a place to help protect people, protect their lives, and make sure that our republic stays free, right?
Right.
All those things. Aiming for the truth is my mission. It is what God is going to look at me for and smile. This is my you get in the heaven checkbox, because this is what he put me here to do. Aiming for the truth is the brainchild of mine that wanted to get beyond blaming anything but the real reasons why people are violent. So I want to aim for the truth and kill violence at its roots. And how do we do that? And sometimes it's not with a gun. Matter of fact, a lot of times it's not with a gun. It's not politics and arguing that crap. What it is dealing with the societal ills and the environmental conditions that are causing individuals to be violent. And so if I can help get to the root of violence and kill it at its roots, I can help people not be violent. Thus, for all the people that are packing their concealed carry permits and running around with their guns, guess what? I'm eliminating your threats. And I never had to pick up a gun, right? Because I am getting them before they get started. So aiming for the truth, what I wanted to do is deal with certain key issues in people's lives and help them deal with it and heal. And so it's multifaceted, but here's what we essentially do. And a lot of this, sometimes I don't do it at the big seminars. I just do it individual, depends on what a person needs. But if we're having the actual event, which, by the way, will be in Memphis, Tennessee this year, Chattanooga, Tennessee,
cool.
And I think those are two cities in Tennessee. What we do is we get, people in a room, and we want to start off with the one thing that I know I experienced, and I'm pretty sure many people, whether they want to talk about it out loud or not, experience. If your mind's not healthy, nothing's healthy.
Right.
All right. So the first thing we talk about is dealing with mental health and making sure that you're okay, and dealing with the mind. Because if I can help people address, like, look at me, I'm a 13-year-old kid that almost blew his head off because I didn't know something was wrong. Right. So sometimes it's simply being open and honest about my story, which, make no doubt about it, is not a pat on the back to me. I expected to be slaughtered when I start talking about that. You can't be a gun dude talking about suicide. Well,
why not?
Miss me with that, because it is what it is. And I was 13. Shut up. So it was my way of saying that I understand that your mind can be unhealthy, your head can hurt. And you know how we translate that? A lot of times you just think somebody's angry or they have an attitude problem.
Right.
And it's because something else is driving that. Now, sometimes people are just jerks, right? But many times something's wrong and they don't know how to touch it. They don't, because you can't. They're just angry. So I want to help deal with the mind. So what I do is I bring in a local to that environment, subject matter expert that can help continue the conversation afterwards. But they're at the event, I let them speak for 5 to 7 minutes. So all the subjects I'm about to talk about, I allow the speakers to speak for 5 or 7 minutes. I am emceeing the entire thing, sharing my experiences. But these resources are available to the community. So when I leave, people have started the process of getting better.
Very cool.
So we'll deal with mental illness. After we deal with mental illness and I have a clean slate or a mind that you realize that you have to work on, if that is something that you struggle with, well, then I want to start getting into the weeds a little bit more. So what about employment? I was like, I was a gun dude talking about employment. Well, I'll tell you why. Because guess what? If somebody can't, we're animals at the end of the day. We just happen to be smart animals, right?
Sure we are, right.
But we're still animals. So that being said, what happens if an animal that normally is pretty domesticated can't eat? What happens if you put your dog outside and there ain't enough for that dog to eat?
That's right.
That dog eventually,
it's mean.
It's going to get mean,
right?
Right? So it's the same thing that happens to people. You know, if I'm suffering, starving, and look, I'm not saying it might not be society's fault, right? Maybe it is a stupid politician that wrote some stupid thing that caused this, 2 decades ago and it's still having its effects now. Could be a lot of things that led to it. However, how do we address it? So I've had plenty of men, 25, 35, 45 years old, humbly tell me, look, man, I can't get a job because I don't know how to read. I don't know how to write. I damn sure can't put a resume together. And even if I can do those things, I don't know how to tie a tie. Like I'm not going to succeed. And you know what? There hasn't been anybody in their environment that felt comfortable telling that to. That's why they haven't fixed it, right? Because they weren't comfortable talking about it. But if I can help you over those things, not only with my own skills, but with the skills of those around me and maybe a local resource, then let's get you to the point to I'll talk for you, right? And we'll get you that help. So now if I can get you employed and get you busy and get you being able to attain things in your life, I don't have to worry about you starving and taking it from somebody else.
Right.
So after that, then we're going to start dealing with the family. So I ran a program through the NFL. It's called All Pro Dad, started by Tony Dungy. And Tony Dungy is a great program he put together. And I got a phone call from the local school system like, hey, we would like for you to come in and run this program for us. And yeah, you heard that right. A school system called a gun guy, if you want to say that, to come in and teach fathers, right? That's because I'm not a gun guy, but we'll get into that later. So I get into the school and I started teaching this class and I switched it up to the way that I think it was more relevant and stuff like that. And the next thing you know, man, I'm not gonna lie. This made me cry because this was deep because I'm a kid that didn't have a dad, right? So I'm able to look at the kids in this classroom doing these activities and stuff that I'm hosting with their parents, and all these kids remind me of me, right? They all remind me of me, even the girls. They all remind me of me. And I'm like, these kids are feeling the same pain that I used to feel, and they're trying to have a good time with you, but really they're kind of pissed at you, right? So we need to make sure that we take this very serious. So I was astonished at the end of that program when it ran its course. I was able to put 70 fathers back into the household with their kids or back into their lives, right? Awesome. And so how many, not only now is dad, and I don't care what his background is, right now dad is now involved back with his children.
Yeah.
Dad has somebody looking and holding him accountable because I don't give a damn who you are. Nobody can hold you accountable like your kids, right? So now these kids are holding him accountable, but he knows how to take $5 and make it work for the day.
Yeah.
It's like these kids don't need your money, man. They need you, dude. Like, let's really show you how to do that. And we did. We went over all these tips and we did these bonding relationships with the kids. And I'm like, I cried several times.
Yeah.
You stand there and you see a kid jump up and down like, my daddy does love me. Like, don't get me started. I'll cry on this show. So it's really emotional. And I wanted to bring that into Aiming for the Truth. So we do that. We want to reunite dads back with their kids, right? And it's more conversational and really giving them how I felt sitting in the windowsill, dad not coming home. When people used to bully me and I would fight, though, I'll punch you in the face. But still, the fact of the matter is you should have been there to teach me how to fight, right? Especially coming from me. My father is a Golden Glove boxer. Yeah, it would have been pretty cool to have you around, dude. But getting fathers back into the household with their kids, is important. And then once you get back in the household, now let's start talking about conflict resolution or avoidance, right? Which I've renamed it NIP it to the late great Nipsey Hussle, how to nip conflict in the butt. Because the last thing I want you to do is have a clean mind, working a good job, involved in your family, taking care of your kid, doing right, and then somebody bumps you or steps on your shoe and you blow it all up, right? Because you're gonna have some kind of conflict. So let's talk about how to identify that from my perspective and how to survive that, and then tell you what the consequence is if you don't listen, because I come from a place where a lot of people come from, but I was also on the law enforcement end of it to tell you, hey man, this stuff can end really bad. So let's give people real life tips and tricks, not something out of a book, not something that sounds like some professor wrote it, like nitty gritty. This is what you're going to do to avoid those situations. And this is what the outcome can potentially look like. So sharing those experiences with them. And then let's talk about your children. Let's get your kids involved in different activities that might be around. I've invited school systems in that offer better educational opportunities than the local public schools. They might be charter schools, but they are free, right? So when I find those school systems, it's getting parents introduced to those school systems so your kid can learn. And you can take them out the environment they're normally in. And when you do that, if they get out their normal environment, guess what? They meet different people. We start nipping crap in the butt like racism and stereotypes because they're fluctuating outside of their normal environment. They're actually meeting people at a stage where they're developing. Guess what? While your child is developing, you can't help but love the people that love your kid, right? So now mom and dad get to see these people that they normally don't interact with. They're like, really here to help? Yeah. So now mom and dad are now intermingling with different environments and learning different things. And then they go back and say, hey guys, I don't know if you knew this, but look, there are these other opportunities that exist. And so we can start pushing people past their normal boundaries, get them into better opportunities, right? Doing all those things causes a word that people need in their lives. They need to have established in their lives. That word is equity. They need to know that their lives mean something.
They're worth something.
And once you run through the gauntlet of that, and we do all that in 90 minutes, and once you run through the gauntlet of that, Aiming for the Truth is different than other events. People do cry at aiming. It is, because I am not here to be the tough gun dude, right? I am here on a mission. I am not here for merchandise. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm none of those things. I am here for a mission. I am passionate. I am purposeful. I am not somebody that is just here to be the cool kid. Screw the cool kid attitude. I didn't like him in high school. So I'm not going to show up now and try to be the cool kid. My thing is, you're going to impress all the people you want to online.
Right.
I want to go over, you go talk to the cameras. I talk to the cameras because they want to talk to me. What I'm going to do is go over here and talk to this mom that is wondering how to keep her kid from going to juvenile. I want to go talk to this dad that's like, I would really love to go over there and hug my son, man, but I've disappointed him and I have no idea how to approach him. And you know what? Because I'm so angry and disappointed with that, my life is nothing. All right. So who am I? I can't get a job. My kid doesn't love me. I'm angry all the time. Like, that's what I'm here for.
That's awesome.
That's what I'm here for. So to me, it's helping people understand and invest and understand that they have equity into their life. That being said, now, Second Amendment. Here's something that is very, very important. And I want you guys in the audience to listen to this very carefully. Hear me with an open mind. You'll never succeed at anything if you don't listen to people and hear their perspective. I'm going to pause for a second before I get to the capstone of Aiming for the Truth. And I want to ask you guys an honest question.
All right, hit me.
Okay. So think 2A companies, outdoor companies, anything involved in like outdoorsmen or guns or anything like that, right? Think of those companies. I want you to think about first responders.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When first responders get hurt on the job or, anything unfortunate happens to them, you do see those type of companies jump in and do events and donate and things like that, right?
Right.
I think we all see that. I've done it myself. As no other choice, I have given to slain officers.
Right.
All right. I have went to my sponsors and said, hey, we had an officer get hurt. You need to send me some stuff. We had a fireman get hurt. You need to send me some stuff. We had an MMT that needs a little money to buy some better gear. Send me some stuff. We've done that.
They jump on it.
Okay? Yeah. Like you should. And I'm not saying we shouldn't. But that being said, we agree that 2A companies do that.
They do it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. So I want to ask you a question. So we understand that if Officer Robinson gets hurt in the line of duty, 2A companies get involved. Cool. Hey, so when little Timmy from the city is walking to school and gets shot, how many 2A companies jump in?
I know the answer to this. And I mean, this is what's frustrating to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not enough. I would wager to say not many at all.
I would tell you none.
Really?
Now, does that mean that a local guy that runs a gun range didn't do something? No, I'm not saying that. Talking about on a visual, we know this company
Brand
that everybody recognizes.
Smith & Wesson, Glock, whoever, right? I'm just naming names.
Yeah, you don't see it, right? And so I said, you know what? I'm gonna do the 2A community a favor.
Right.
Not only is this event going to, because I don't think that's intentional. Let me make that clear. I don't think it's intentional. I think it's a missed opportunity.
Absolutely.
For the things that I believe that are in the heart of people that are involved in this sport, it's a missed opportunity. But guess what? You can do a couple of things when you see a problem. You can sit and bitch about it.
Right.
Right. And it just stays a problem. So you're just another person complaining about it. So you're just observing something. Or you can fix it and do something. So aiming for the truth, I said, well, here's an opportunity. So this is what I'm going to do. This event is going to be sponsored by gun companies. So when I come in here and I'm doing all this stuff, my banner is going to clearly be in the background, but proper, international, great gear, boom, jumped on board day one, right? Awesome. Because they want people to know that they care about them as a community. Mm-hmm. It's more than just selling you a product. Now, do people respond and buy a crap ton of their product? Sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Smart marketing.
Yeah, and I told him, I said, this is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to work. And I'm like trying to sell the guy on it. And he's just like, as soon as you shut up, I'm going to say, yeah, man, just stop talking. All right. Because it was great. Right. I'm like, and you know what? And then I went out to so-and-so company. I've had HK give things. I've got Enforce has been great. We've got Fiocchi. Oh my God, don't get me started with Fiocchi. So awesome. Making sure that we can get even ammo out to people and get them training when they get to the point of training, but just being there and being supportive. Duracoat. God, man, I know I'm going to miss some people because I don't have everything in front of me, but it is putting the Range St. Louis West, just getting all these entities involved. Breakthrough Clean, like just so many people, getting them involved. And so when you come to this community event, instead of it being like the local hospital that it normally is, or the local grocery chain, or this, church or whatever, like they can be there, right? But you clearly see that it is gun-related companies that are saying, we are here, and guess what? We ain't got no guns to sell you. We ain't selling you nothing. Mm-hmm. We're here for you.
To invest.
We made sure that we helped out with whatever Kevin called for, all right? And I do have a GoFundMe for Aiming for the Truth, by the way. So it's GoFundMe.com/Aiming for the Truth. Please help. But it's between the Second Amendment community, you guys, right, and the companies, where I can afford to get around and get these events put on. And so it is showing people that, man, it's not election time and gun companies are showing up.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You mean to tell me I'm not at a gun show? Like, I'm just at a community event about getting my kid a better education, and there are right? Good. Because that changes the perspective of who you are,
right,
to them, right? Mm-hmm. It is like, oh, maybe I was going to buy a gun anyway. Maybe I didn't need convincing them about that. But it's good to know that you cared enough to make sure that, Fiocchi sponsored the bounce house outside so my kid could be entertained while I'm in here getting ready to be a better dad.
Right.
Right. So those kind of things are great for the 2A community to get a different representation outside of political banter or outside of when a shooting happens. And we're like, you shouldn't have guns in school. You shouldn't have guns in school and all that. It gives you a different face and a different time. Because let me tell you something. The opposition of freedom is always there.
Oh, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these companies should be tripping over themselves to do this. I mean, really, they should be.
You know what? I will say this. And I say this humbly. A lot of people think that I'm arrogant. I'm really not. I'm just passionate. So some companies believe that when they are dealing with the digital age and the digital world, and look, I get it, man. I'm not knocking them. I get it. They believe that social media influencers is all they need to focus on, mm-hmm. right? And look, I'll openly tell them, I was like, hey, I love guys that we categorize as social media influencers. Some of them are my best buds.
Sure.
I joke with these guys. We have a great time. off camera, on camera. Like these are buddies of mine and dudes that are passionate about what they do as well. And a lot of them are if they were never have a camera in front of them, they would still say the same thing. They would still be the same people. So nobody in particular when I say this, but I will say this about myself. There are social media influencers, and then there are influencers that happen to be on social media.
Yeah. Well, the former of those two, it's an echo chamber, right? They're social media for gun people. They're talking to gun people. It's the gun enthusiast that gets on Instagram and follows their favorite companies and things like that. It's not the person that has no clue that is accessible to them, that the Second Amendment is for them, that they have a right to defend themselves. That's not who's being reached by social media sponsored by gun companies. Nope. It's an echo chamber.
Yep. In 2017 alone, the year I decided to keep count, just so I can have a number. Yeah. In 2017 alone, we took 300 people that were either on the fence, anti-gun, and switched them.
That's awesome.
Wow.
300.
That's awesome.
Right. So it is being active, being in the community, talking to people. Right. And big shouts out to the Range St. Louis West in my area where I moonlight. I go in there and it's an area that is in the suburbs of St. Louis, and to no fault of the range where they built, but people here were having an issue about going to certain areas because of harassment. We've had gun shops around this area that were just full of jerks that have mistreated people when they came in from different areas because they didn't understand them.
Right.
It's even happened to me. I don't tell people who I am when I walk in. I just want to see what you do. I'll embarrass you quick as hell, but I just want to see what you do. But because of some people being a bad representation, and look, every group has their bad reps, right? Sure. We're going to have ours. It happens. Nothing you can do about it. However, even by a company like the Range St. Louis West being so involved in what I do, that place went from being a place that's, had the same old faces coming in all the time, great business, great model, great people. I'm like, nah, we're going to change this. Now you walk in that place a couple of years later, you walk in there and hell, man, it's America, baby. Right. It's America. It's all kind of people.
That's good.
It's awesome because people are comfortable. Like they come in, smile, and it's no more of that. And it wasn't just me. It's with them helping. But now we've created this little area where this entire region is voted the #1 range in Missouri for a reason, right? And people walk in and they're like, this is what the gun community looks like.
Oh, absolutely.
All this flavor and, all this kind of stuff where people, I used to have it where, because I was the black face in the range, when other minorities would walk in, they would be like, yeah, there he is. And they will talk to me. Like, I'll have a line of people. I'm like,
right.
The white guys over there can help you too, right? Yeah, no, we'll wait. And now people come in, they've got their favorite salesman. Like they'll wave at me and they go talk to their favorite.
Good.
Right. So it's all great, man. I love it. But that being said, I know I kind of got off track. That being said, when it comes to the guns at the event, besides the representation of the companies, and hopefully more companies get it. And I will tell you this. I will tell you something that does deeply sadden me. I'm not going to lie about this. I'll be very open and honest. What saddened me is that companies that have been talked to or do know what I do, I can say that down there, the ones I named help. They help.
Sure.
But like donations, I've been aiming for the truth for I know a good 2 years solid. We haven't even hit $3,000, dude.
Wow.
It's all the GoFundMe stuff is public. You can see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't even think it's at $3,000. It's like 24 somewhere up in there, but it's not $3,000. And I'm like, I'm watching organizations spend to grow. They say spend, $10,000 on an event.
Mm-hmm.
Or they spend more than that on vinyl PVC patches to give away at conventions.
Exactly. And I'm like, guys, I don't think you understand. And I've told them to their face, you must not understand what I'm here for.
Right.
And it's no way, because if a company like that, like for instance, and you're right, you spend 15, 20 grand on patches. It's like, are you here to grow? And do you want to change your public perception?
Right.
Because if it's about selling product, look, I have a master's degree in procurement, acquisition, and contract management with an understudy in business. If you want, don't get me started on that.
Sure.
If you want to sell product, we can do that.
Well, yeah, you can connect the dots for them there. But I mean, all you're asking for is invest in the community, invest in the people.
And they will invest in you. One of my slogans is we support those that support us.
Right.
The reason why Proper International can move pants and gear like nobody's business is not just because the one community is supporting them. Americans that want communities to be supported say, yeah, and I'm going to support the companies that believe in helping people.
Right, right.
And so they will switch who they normally buy from and say, well, I'm buying over here now because they're doing more than just selling us things, right? They're involved in the fight. So to me, it does sadden me, and I never call any company out by name, but, you know, we've had promises of, and everything's professional. Like with me, you're going to get a receipt. You know, our status will be flipped here in 4 weeks. I think we're 4 weeks out to officially get past all the government stuff. Gun stuff can be really funny when you're doing NPL stuff with the government.
Oh, sure, right.
But we've gotten past that. So in 4 weeks, we'll have our non-for-profit status with the government. I leave all the funds public, and you can see me doing events. It's all, I put it all out there, right? So a lot of that stuff has came from my pockets and my Patreon. So, but even Patreon is $180 a month. I can spend that helping one family get a washer. Yeah. So it's really, so it's thank you to the people helping and thank you to the companies already invested. But it is sad that we don't have more people involved. So it's me pushing out my pocket. So all the money that I do happen to make from training, that's how I fund Aiming for the Truth. I do not make a profit out of my own pocket, right? I take that right back and give to Aiming for the Truth. So, but to the equity part, to deal with guns at the event, I turn more people pro-gun without talking about guns at all. And this is how you do it. After they understand and believe that they have equity or they can foresee building that equity, right? That's a very simple question. Do you believe that there's somebody walking God's green earth that will deprive you of that life? Mm-hmm. Everybody says yes. I mean, how can you not, right? It's not a gun thing. It's not a Republican or Democrat thing. It's a life thing. Like, is there? Yeah, hell, of course there is.
We've seen the news. We see it.
And so after I asked that, you know, let the mind ponder for a second. I'm if you can't tell, I'm kind of animated. So I'm very like visual. And people, you know, I put them into a state of mind where they actually have to think and they have to imagine whatever they connected with. I give them a second because I want that to sink in. All right. So how do you protect it? How do you protect your equity? The life, being a good parent, believing in your kid, going to different places and have different experiences, being a gainfully employed person, somebody that's mentally healthy. Like, how do you protect all this equity you can now envision?
Right. Yeah.
I tell them there's this little thing called the Second Amendment. And that guarantees you, right? Even though God gave it to you, we had to put it in writing for some reason. But that is the written proof, if you will, that you have the right to protect this life that you now envision.
Right.
I don't have to sell you a gun.
No.
I'm not selling you anything. What I'm doing is convincing you that you need to protect the investment that you have now realized is important to you. How do you do that? That's how you do that. So while other people are like, you should have a gun, I'm not beating you upside the head with a gun. I am convincing you or showing you that you should love yourself enough to protect yourself. The equity you've invested. Whatever part of your life makes you say, yep, that's right, I'm going to get a firearm and I'm going to get responsibly trained. I can do that 10 times over because I'm not a gun dude that walks in like, you need to have a gun. I'm a guy coming in to assist you, bringing other experts in that know way more than I do to assist you, building a community, building a bond. You know what I become? I become an ally. I become a friend. I become somebody that you can relate to. So when I start talking to you about, hey, just making sure you're okay, not being Rambo, not being, G.I. Jane or doing any of those things, I just want you to be okay. And on top of that, guess what? Because I always invite whatever local trainers around. I always invite them in because I want them to be a resource. And then I tell people at the end, hey, guess what? If you're concerned about it, I work this out with the local trainer before I get there because I'm trying to help local businesses as well. It's all a part of my thing if you didn't pick that up. Like, I want to help businesses grow. So it's getting that local trainer in and having them agree, having that trainer agree that for every single family in attendance or their extended family, all right, I don't care who it is, if these people bring them or if anybody shows up within 30 days of this event, all right, I need that instructor to put on a free family firearms safety course.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
No politics, just gun safety. That's it, right? Let them come in. and let them just have a safety course. Because we want their children to be safe. We want the parents to be safe if they ever encounter a gun. When you give people that kind of environment to be comfortable, I don't have to sell you anything.
No.
The next phone call is, hey, so what do I buy? Like, how do we get this thing started? What's going on?
Right.
And then the thing is, when the local influences that might not want them to be armed or believe they shouldn't be armed, when you're talking about exercising your right to vote, all this stuff starts to tie in together. And then when they're watching my social media and stuff like that, all this stuff starts to really tie together. Like, hold on, Mr. Politician and Mrs. Politician, can you please tell me why you don't think it's okay that I protect myself? Right. Because see, now I see a life worth having. So I'm like, can you, why is that? Then they have to try to explain it where you're like, well, I'm not that kind of person. And I'll be honest with you, you keep talking about these gun people. Well, the gun companies and the gun people that I met at this event, they weren't anything like what you're describing. Right. They were all nice and kind. They weren't even shoving guns down our throat. They gave us a free class for our kids wouldn't get hurt with guns. And this isn't a selling technique. This is all authentic. So there is nothing that I have to sell. Right. And so what happens is the powers that be now get into a struggle because what we've done is placed 20, 30, 40 advocates back into the community to go do work.
I love it. I love it. So we're going to get into this in a minute, but really what you've done is you've delivered the truth.
Hey folks, David here. Did you know that there is more to the Shooters Nation than this podcast? Mark and I are working hard to knit together a community of well-informed, responsibly armed citizens who are well prepared to face the worst days of their lives. We would like to invite you to join us and the other listeners on our various social media outlets and become an active part of the Shooters Nation community. You can find us on Instagram as @ShootersNationRadio. And if Facebook is your thing, you can find us there at facebook.com/ShootersNation. While you're there, be sure to click on the link to join our Facebook Shooters Nation community. And as always, you can head over to shootersnation.com for more listener resources.
Really what you've done is you've delivered the truth, right? And so once you deliver the truth to people, lies and agendas and political machinations, they cannot stand up to that truth. Eventually, the truth breaks it down. And that's what's powerful about what you're doing. Kevin, I wanted to say something, and this is really more for the listeners. Sandy, I don't think I've ever talked about this in these terms on the podcast, but you described a family unit and the need for fathers in the home, and you described people making bad choices and ending up incarcerated, right? Ending up in prisons. And they got there because they felt like there was no other way for them to make ends meet or to provide for their families or to get ahead, et cetera. So that's not, listeners, I want you to hear this. That's not an inner city thing. That's not a black or a white thing. My dad, Kevin, was a pharmacist. And so we grew up in a small town of Western Kentucky, and he did pretty good for himself. He did pretty good for my family. His dad, career law enforcement officer. Much like your dad, he was my grandfather, Golden Gloves boxer. When he got back from the war, he was still a young guy, and he started a boxing program for was it the YMCA or something like that? Yeah, I think it's just the Young Men's Club in our hometown. We've got these newspaper articles where I started learning things about him and found trophies, boxing trophies, and things. And so, I had this family structure that you would think all things are going to go right. And, even my parents sent me, or my grandparents paid to send me and my brother to a private school because they wanted us to have the best education. It unraveled. My dad worked more hours a day in a week than he was at home. So I didn't really get to see him all that much. And it's not that he wasn't an influence in my life, but really the person that was more my grandfather. And my dad eventually made a dumb decision as a white collar, good money earning pharmacist, made a dumb decision that landed him in prison. And then suddenly he's in there with people that we all in our family would have looked at and thought, well, those are the folks that my grandfather would have arrested as a police officer. He gets in there and finds out that these folks are just like him, just like us. They've got things that matter to them. They care about their family. They're trying to put food on the table for their kids. but they didn't understand. They didn't have access to the ways to do it the way that we did. So they resorted to the things that they could do easily without an education and without job training. And, it's just, hey, I'm trying to put bread on the table. And so, I robbed a bank, or I was trying to do this, and I held up a convenience store, and I didn't want to shoot the guy, but he reached for my gun, and then it was a fight and that kind of stuff. Right. And so now that guy's a murderer. So, you see him on the news and you're like, oh, wow, this guy, he shot someone in cold blood. He's, he held up this store. But, he's sitting there, and I'm hearing these stories from my dad visiting him in prison. And he's like, yeah, this guy over here, he's a good guy. He made a mistake. He didn't want to kill the guy. He's not a cold-blooded murderer. It was a fight that had a gun involved. There it's a gunfight, and now somebody dies, right? And so, this isn't just an inner city thing. I mean, for me, I would have loved to have more time with my dad and more lessons from him about making right decisions and stuff. But, he was flawed himself, and he couldn't teach me those things, really. And so, it's good that what you're doing is to try to bring a positive influence into homes and knit homes back together. Because, I mean, that's just really, I firmly believe this. I know Sandy does too. That's where a lot of that's the intersection of a lot of possibilities in America is at the home. And if it goes the right way, then you never hear about that person because they just, they're a success story, or at least they're not a tragedy, right? But if it doesn't go the right way, then you end up with folks that are in bad predicaments. And it doesn't mean they're bad people. It really doesn't.
Very true.
So, you mentioned the truth, or I mentioned the truth, and you've mentioned a couple of times. You've got a series of guns because we know people like to talk about guns, and you've got some the truth pistols, right? So I'd like for you to tell us about that. But I think for me, what I really hope you'll talk about, they've got a very powerful connection to some important history about the necessity of the Second Amendment and why the means to protect yourself from evil, whether it's from an individual or from a government, is so important. What can you tell us about that?
So, due to the nature of the beast, being around guns long enough and shooting a lot of them, I'm like, you know what? I want my own gun, and I want it to be to my spec and to my thing. But it was just going to be a one-off. Like I just wanted my gun customized, right? But what I do when it comes to the Second Amendment, I don't do normal talking points because guess why? Everybody else is doing them. So, I don't need to do them. I wanted to make sure that while we speak of, and I don't think we realize how strong we are in some of the words we say, and you get somebody that truly means Second Amendment's for everybody, like Tony Simon constantly says, when you really get somebody that believes that, well, why don't we do a better job of amplifying those voices, right? Because all those different voices are all going to have different experiences. They're going to bring different things in a different way. And I try to constantly tell people, like, when you do anything, be methodical about it, because some of the simple moves in life can be, life altering. So I'm like, all right, here's the reality check, guy. All right, so you're going to design you a gun and put a gun out. And then if you like the gun, people will ask you about it and you'll be like, all right, eventually what's going to happen is you're going to sell some guns, right? It's going to happen even whether you wanted to or not. But it was, I didn't get moved by it, man. I'm just not moved by, the category of Gucci gun. Like, let me just pump out a gun and sell it to you, dude. It'd be awesome. So I'm like, all right, that's not going to work. So I sat on it. I just didn't do anything. So what happened is, to give you the true backstory of it, Noir dropped his Advocate pistol, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I knew about that gun right before it came out, and I was proud of him. It was a good move for him. He dropped the Advocate pistol. I was like, cool. So what people don't realize is Noir was the first Black guy to drop a signature gun, right? So I'm like, all right, that's awesome. And nobody's like realizing this, like that's a great thing, right? And the thing about, hey, diversity, look at this, And then Ken Scott with Provectus Group dropped the second. I was like, okay, this is awesome. Look at these guys go. So I'm like the biggest cheerleader, right? Because I am seeing all the messages behind what they're doing. Right. And one day I put up a meme. It's the meme of Pablo Escobar like sitting on a swing looking real lonely, right? I put up that meme, and in the meme, I said, I retitled the text, restructured the text to read, when all your friends, because I'm friends with both those guys. I said, when all your friends have signature guns and you don't. And it was just Pablo looking sad. But then below the caption, I went into how great their guns were, where you can go get them. And so it was a way to just draw attention.
Sure.
Right. And MLS Customs, a guy named Wayne, who was in on the Truth Project. Yeah. He and we had met. He hops in my slides in my DM. And he's like, so basically what he said is, you're full of it. It's like, what?
What?
You're like, what are you talking about, dude? He's like, yeah. He basically kicked me in the rear. That's what he did. He was like, so what you waiting on? Bow.
Oh, called you out.
Something.
Yeah.
What's up? And I know his work, and I know he's great at what he does.
He is very good.
So I know what I want in a firearm as a performer with a gun. Don't ask me to draw a circle. Do not ask me to color in the lines. I can tell you what it's supposed to look like and why it should do what it does. Not ask me to make it. So I was like, all right, well, I know now that I got a guy that's great at making my thoughts. He can make my thoughts pop, right? So I'm like, okay. But no, I was like, no, man, I'm not doing it, dude. It's not good enough, man. Wayne's like a little forceful guy. He's like, So what happened was, I was like, well, once again, how did No Other Choice start? It was a natural thing. I didn't make it up, right? And I just sat there for a second. And I had these thoughts before, and they just came back. It was like, hey, man. It was just a calm voice, and it said, what do you do? How do you, what's one of the most important ways you fight for freedom that will make people uncomfortable? It was like, by telling the truth.
There you go.
And so thus came the truth. And so the gun itself is awesome. I have one right here that I can show the audience. If I can, I got the cases around here too, I can grab and show them. But the truth was more than just another gun. So I decided that I'm going to do something bold. I'm going to put out the first guns that fight gun control. And I did just that, right? And so how do we do that? So I'll get into the design features of the gun in a second, but what made the story, as you mentioned, beautiful, is that when you are listening to people talking about, you shouldn't have this, you should be restricted to that, you shouldn't have this, you don't need this, crime is doing this, that's that. You know what that does to me when people start talking like that? It bores me and it pisses me off. Right. Because no matter, we all know we can go pull, I would say the FBI probably has the most non-biased stats. But when you start pulling all these studies from all these schools, I don't know if anybody's ever studied in college statistics and how they get stats. It's a bunch of BS.
Oh, it's lying with math, right? You can tell any story with statistics.
That is a great way to put that. I'm totally stealing that from you.
Do it. I do not have a patent on that, so go for it.
So I'm like, people can finagle numbers and all that, and people get to debate numbers, and they say, well, I pulled this stuff. I'm like, that bores me. You know what? I'm just like every other American. So I guarantee you the majority of people are bored with that. They don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
They just want to know how you feel. So I was like, all right, well, since you guys are running around here telling all these lies, I'm going to talk to you directly about why what you're saying is wrong instead of just accusing you. I'm going to tell it in a factual way. So we're going to do it historically. Nice. So I often talk about the roots of gun control, why it is what it is, with facts. Not, this is what I feel. No, these are documented facts.
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah. Lay it on us. I know the history. Let's do it.
So when at first I started telling people about, the black code laws, things like that, people like me, when I was like, oh, gun control, I love it when they say, oh, it's not about, it never had anything to do with race. I'm like, BS.
Wrong.
What? Wrong. Like, if you really want to get into it, gun control was enacted in this country before it was a country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For people that look like me and indigenous people, right?
Right.
So, and you, young lady, you weren't really supposed to have them either, right? So it is one of those things where it's like, except they just told you couldn't have it. They wrote in the law I couldn't have it. And only you could get one if you needed to shoot me. That's kind of how it worked.
Right.
So it was one of them things when I started talking about that, people were like, all right, but you're going back to when the country was young and, we did some horrible things. Like, oh.
Fast forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward this thing a little bit. So we get into 1921. So the truth And for your audience, this thing is wrapped in everything I'm about to say. And when I get done talking, I can go grab the case. It's not taking me 2 seconds. Or right here somewhere. But I'm going to tell you a story about Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. And I'll try to literally make this in less than 2 minutes so I can get to both stories. So Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921, there was a little town or a little subset of the town called Black Wall Street, as it was nicknamed. The reason is, you can imagine in 1921, segregation was still pretty much a big deal, right? It's kind of the way of life. The blacks weren't allowed to mingle with the whites. They didn't want them taking part in their economy. So you do what you would tell anybody to do. If somebody doesn't invite you to theirs, build your own, right? And that's exactly what they did. Built it, and there were many of these communities around the country. This is just one of the most well-known ones.
Right.
Built their community to be self-sufficient, so self-sufficient that essentially only $1 for every $10 ever escaped the community.
That's awesome.
Own infrastructure, own schools, hospitals, dentists, everything, colleges, everything. It was self-sustaining and self-sufficient and successful. So not to say it wasn't without its faults. I mean, every community is going to have its faults, but they were doing what you would tell people to do. Build your own, don't make excuses. So long story short, what happened at Black Wall Street, obviously you can imagine how envious people were.
Sure.
All right. So there was a young kid that was a shoe shiner that got into an elevator. Essentially, he bumped into the elevator operator. That's the story. She screamed, a young white girl, and she screamed assault, sexual assault. The kid was detained and they were going to lynch him. So he was in the hands of law enforcement, but the town people wanted to lynch him. They didn't want him to have a day in court. They just wanted to lynch him because by the time the story got all around the town, he had raped her.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So the gentleman from Black Wall Street came down and they were going to prevent that lynching from happening. Like, all right, he can go to court, but we're not lynching anybody.
Right.
Now, they came with guns. Right. Now, here's the thing. And here's where it gets interesting. When they came with their firearms, people were understanding that they had select long guns, that the Negroes could own select long guns. Due to the Army-Navy laws, an extension of Jim Crow, they weren't allowed to have handguns. Well, because they were so financially affluent, money makes everything go away, right? Money can do weird things. So they had a couple of handguns too, right? So that drew the attention of a guy, asked him, hey, N-word, what are you doing with that gun? He didn't care about the long gun. He wanted to know about that handgun.
Right.
Because that's the one that stuck out to him. A struggle ensued over the gun. A shot was fired because he asked the white guy asked the black gentleman, what do you plan on doing? And he told him, use it if I need to. All right.
Right.
And a struggle ensued over the gun. A shot was fired. And then the people used that incident as a reason, as an excuse to go in and pillage Black Wall Street. So listen to my voice carefully, America. They went into that community who had arms. Stop, though. They were only allowed certain arms. So why do you need an AR-15? Remember, so I often tell people this. Inadequate arms is the same as being disarmed. It's the illusion of freedom. Mm-hmm. Inadequate arms is the illusion of freedom. That's what it is. Yeah. Right. So when people want to limit what you can have, that's all they're saying. A falsehood, right? Right. Mm-hmm. And they such a falsehood that they were able to pillage and destroy that entire.
They declared war on. I mean, it's Greenwood, right? Greenwood, Oklahoma. Yeah, I mean, they just destroyed it and declared war on those people.
Wiped it off the face of the earth in 24 hours. God. Yeah. 24 hours. Right. They wiped this community out. Now, look, this isn't just burning people out of their homes. This is killing people in their homes. Right. This is burning their homes with them in it. This is state police crop planes dropping kerosene and propane bombs from the sky. This is people clubbing kids and setting them on fire in the middle of the street. This is individuals with veterans that happen to be Black standing in their front yard saying there's no way you will ransack my home because I served, I died. I bled for this country. There's no way you're going to do that. Nope. Killed him in his front yard, set him on fire in his uniform and killed his family. This is people running amok, allowed to do it essentially free. And guess what? Law enforcement didn't do a damn thing.
And the government helped them, right?
Yeah, they got in on the action, right?
Yeah.
So what happened is eventually the National Guard showed up, and after they turned their backs to it and allowed a little bit more.
Took their time. Yeah.
We'll just do 30 miles an hour getting there. We're fine.
Right.
Right. Stop and get some coffee.
Stop and get some lunch.
After they got there and they decided that the nation then, because news traveled a little bit slower then, but the nation started kind of sort of hearing about it, blah, blah, blah. So they wanted it to end, right? So the National Guard temporarily disarms all the whites, gets them home, gives Jim his gun back, right? They arrested the black people and put them in internment camps. So put them in internment camps, and the only way you could be free from the internment camp was to be tagged a laborer by the same damn people that were just running around murdering your family. But you could come sweep their stores, so that means you can get a tag on your neck and leave for the day.
Right.
Okay? So that, and then when people tried to rebuild Black Wall Street, it was an economic nightmare, you can imagine, and they legislated them out of Greenwood. You know how they did that? Writing into laws ridiculous fire codes where you just couldn't do it. You couldn't afford it, right? Mm-hmm. So they did that with all kind of business license restrictions and cost, and just legislated to where they couldn't get it. So they essentially, first through violence and then through politics, eradicated this community off the face of the earth. That was less than 100 years ago, people.
Practically all memory of it, right? I mean, I had to go dig. I had to go read and learn about this. Yes. And it's only until recently have the educators and even government representatives in Oklahoma started to say, no, we need to tell this story, right? Yeah. We can't just brush it on the rug and treat it like it was something that's just a far distant memory of a thing that may have happened, may not have. Now they're starting to own it. And
after they officially, like, this isn't like, conspiracy, like literally asking in writing, can we get rid of this? Can this never have happened?
Right,
can we talk about that? Like, and so when you tell that story and it's less than 100 years ago, people are like,
wow,
what?
Right.
What happened? I'm like, yeah. Now, here's the thing. When you were looking at that, a lot of people want to be like, oh man, that's the black experience. No. That is an American experience. It happened to happen to your brother and they have melanin in their skin. Yeah. But a lot of melanin anyway. We all got melanin. We just happen to have a lot of it. That being said, that happened to a group of people that, yes, by appearance, they are black. Absolutely. But you're forgetting the American part.
That's right. I mean, this same thing happened to Japanese Americans during World War II when we found like we need to herd them into concentration camps. The same thing happened. I mean, listeners, hear me. This is not just black history. This is American history. The Battle of Athens happened in 1946 in McMinn County, Tennessee, when in a very similar situation, the citizens rose up with arms against the government who was trying to just run rampant with corruption. And, I mean, it's so the Second Amendment exists for a reason. It's the line in the sand that our founding fathers didn't create it. They recognized it and said, you will not pass this line. You will not take a person's life just because you see them as less than valuable than you are, or because you want to trample on their property or their rights or their prosperity or just their very existence. You cannot do that. They have a right to protect themselves. And man, I could talk about this for an hour because I think so many people, at least in my community, in rural middle Tennessee that don't have any understanding of this can easily look at this and nice and tidily tie it up and put a bow on it and say, that was the black community in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. That's not relevant to me at all until it is. Until the government comes looking for them for some reason because they vote differently, they worship differently, they do something else differently, and now suddenly the Second Amendment's important.
Yep, and that's the message I'm trying to push to people. Now, here's the thing: by being honest and being authentic and telling that story, there's something I try to get to people. Everything we do needs to be methodical, and I have a saying: understand things in their complexity. Yeah. Be able to execute and be able to, understand things in their complexity and be able to execute them with simplicity, right? Awesome. So I can tell the story simply. And here's the thing. Intelligence is the proper application of knowledge. So once you properly apply the knowledge you have, you can have more intellect in your debates. It's not the normal talking points. So when I'm able to look a politician in their face and they're talking to me about, and I've done this, like literally, they're like, high school. I'm like, sucks, sad. Yeah, I know. I work with kids all the time. Like my wife's in education. I get it. I got kids myself. It sucks. Hey, but if you're going to play Take My Rights based off that emotional tragedy, meet me on this playing field. Let's talk about this. Right. And immediately you get a
Yeah, they don't want to.
Because let's think about it. I can't play the race card.
Right.
Not with me. Right? You can't play the race card. I got factual history to back up. That's traumatic. And from an educational standpoint, over 80% of Americans don't even know the story. So when they hear it, there's a shock value. And many politicians have never heard of it. So now all of a sudden they're placed in a position where it's like, what's that?
Mouth hanging open, can't really respond. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one of those things to where it's getting people to see things in a light that's a little bit differently. Now, the gun. Obviously, my stance is if they didn't limit what those individuals could have, and if those individuals had everything that those town people had, maybe the story looks a little bit different.
Some parity, some equality. That's right.
Yeah. And another thing that we want to look at is when you're talking about the gun itself, right, and what it represents. And this is what I mean, people, slow down before you can use these things in your conversations. Not only, and the reason I'm bringing it up is let's be very, very clear about something. When it comes to guns and gun control, they use the race card a lot.
Sure they do.
Make no doubt about it. And if you don't see it, let me tell you, in urban areas, it's the thing. Because I want you to hate what white people hate. And they like guns, so hate guns.
Right.
I'm just being very honest. That's just what it is. So when it is brought to a point to where we start having these open conversations, it goes a little bit deeper than even the story of Tulsa. Yes, I've asked people, hey, when was the last time you opened a gun and saw either a reflection of you or the American story?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Most people
now,
know. Right.
When you open this one, it's wrapped. And you can't move because when you open the case, every time you move something, a different part of the story pops up.
Wow. Right?
So it is telling you things that are factual. And for people when they're trying to use the race card, when they're trying to say, oh, well, you know, guns aren't for minorities. You know, you shouldn't have those things. You know, you do a Michael Bloomberg line where he didn't know he was being recorded saying, you know, I'm going to do him a favor and take guns from minority men because they can't be trusted with guns.
Right.
That whole thing, idiot, that guy. So when they're saying things like that to you, well, here's the thing I get people back. And I'm telling you, I'll be very honest with you. The resistance that I have had, not much, I'll be honest, but from the 2A community with the guns are these stupid middle-aged white dudes that for some reason are insulted by the fact that I did what I did, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, that's the reason why I took the Second Amendment from you. And
right.
So when somebody's saying, oh, it's not for blacks, you can be like, really? Google the truth.
Yes.
Like, look at this.
Right.
And guess what? That's a black dude that did it.
Right.
Right. Talking about a struggle that happened to black Americans. So you mean guns aren't for you? What do you mean? So that's why I put on social media. When you see my social media, look at the live response of people looking at that gun.
Oh yeah.
You get no other look. I can get people will stop and look at that before they look at any Class 3 gun. Because it is different. Even if they're only curious about why does that thing look like that from a distance, they get up on it and then it's a conversation piece, right? So it's no longer the black guy standing there and he's feeling nervous because the white dude is walking around a gun shop. It's you start talking about that story and everybody's like, well, that's some BS.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you have people with common ground that are like, oh no, that's what why don't I know about this? You know, why didn't they talk about this in school? And so then it starts coming out and then you can say, oh man, and guess what? It was somebody that they are trying to convince you that shouldn't even have guns that put that gun.
That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And they're the ones that wrote the history books, right? History is written by the victors. And that's been the truth of history since people started putting, chisels to stone tablets and recording what happened. The guy that won the battle gets to record the history.
Exactly.
So, man, I could.
His story.
That's right. His story. Yeah.
His story, right?
His history. So, oh my God, I want to talk about this for hours.
The second one, and then the second gun that we put out, the second case, and I'll talk about the guns. The second case is the story of the Underground Railroad. Right. And now when you say Underground Railroad, normally people are like, I kind of know about that, right?
Right.
How does that pertain to guns though, Kevin? Well, everybody's gonna be like, well, do we? Everybody knows if you know of Harriet Tubman, the beast that she is, then Harriet Tubman carried a rifle and
she did.
All out. Harriet, I'm telling you, that's one woman you did not want to screw with.
Right.
All right. Harriet Tubman. So we know that. Cool. I think 75% of people can relate or kind of have an understanding of what the Underground Railroad is.
Yeah, hopefully they've heard about it.
Understand who Harriet Tubman is, give or take.
Right.
Although
Okay.
you won't ever see a picture of her with a rifle in her hands.
Well, it's gotten really popular, at least
in y'all's community.
In recent.
If you look in education materials and history books and stuff that we're teaching our kids, you won't ever see that.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll never see it. Yeah, you will never see her quotes and about self-defense and none of that.
No.
So Harriet, what people don't realize is there was a guy named Moses Dixon. Now we understand that the structure of the railroad wasn't a railroad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we understand that it was a system of a logistical system, barns, stores, hiding places, properties, supplies and things like that had this railroad, right? Where people can sneak out and get north and get free.
That's right.
However, how does guns come into that, Kevin, besides Harriet having one? Well, I'm glad you asked. There was a guy named Moses Dixon, all right? Moses Dixon was a black guy. Moses was born in the state of Ohio, and he came to St. Louis, and he met with 5 or 6 of his friends here, and they started this group called the Knights of Liberty, okay? The Knights of Liberty started as just, a few guys, and over time they grew to be roughly 47,000.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, this group of gentlemen and affiliates and all that had to receive support. So they got American supporters. They also got empathy from Britain, who sent over crates and crates and crates of guns.
Yes, I did.
Britain might have had a little interest in seeing something chaotic.
May have wanted to stir some stuff up, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe they had a little interest in seeing stuff go a little crazy, right?
They may have been a little hurt over a thing that happened, some years before, right?
Yeah, and people didn't wear red coats for a long time. So it was a system, a supply chain that came together, right? And next thing you know, this path that was logistically sound and resourceful was developed, right? That path was what we call the Underground Railroad, was started and thought in concept and then fruition as a way for those 47,000 men to go fight the Confederates to free the slaves.
That's awesome.
Wow.
All right. So they were essentially illegally armed to go to take people from slavery, even though slavery was the law.
Yeah.
So they took up arms to do what was right by their fellow man.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how does that really, okay, Kevin, great. That happened. Cool. Get it now. Boom. What else? All right. Well, cool. Conductors were then assigned or commissioned. Now, Harriet Tubman was a conductor.
Right.
Right. Nobody talks about Moses Dixon. We talk about Harriet, who's awesome and who deserves all the accolades she gets. But Moses is a guy that kind of lurks in the background. And I'm going to tell you why he's my hero in a minute. Moses lurks in the background, but Harriet is one of the many conductors, right? She's just the most iconic because women then weren't like Harriet, all right? Sure. So she really stood out. So they got the conductor sneaking people and using all the tunnels and everything they have access to get away. Well, what wound up happening is it was slave catchers and bounty hunters and whatever else they would call themselves would start pursuing them to bring them back. What they didn't anticipate is that you were going to run into 47,000 armed militia men that were like, nah, no, we're going to kill you. Yeah, that's kind of what we're going to do. All right. So what goes untold in his story was the fact that these militiamen were knocking them off. All right. Now, I'm not going to keep going after people because I didn't know there was a dang on army protecting them.
Right, right.
So there was this little thing that developed called the Reverse Underground Railroad. The movie that was made, I think 4 or 5 years ago, 12 Years a Slave.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. The Hollywood blockbuster movie is an example of that. And the Underground Railroad, for people that don't know, is when people would settle up north and get comfortable, even as far as Canada, they will be kidnapped back into slavery.
Right. That's right.
So that's another reason why the Reverse Underground Railroad became so popular, because they knew physically they would keep losing the battle going after people. So that's your little history about guns and how it pertained to the Underground Railroad. Guns, that was a way for illegally armed men to fight to do what's right by their fellow American brethren that were in slavery. But when the North and the South started having conflict, they're like, well, cool, I'll let my two enemies fight. They repurposed it to sneak people out, right? Well, I'm not going to fight my enemy while my enemy's got an enemy. That's stupid, right? Mm-hmm. Even a section of those guys, they were such great soldiers that a section of them broke off and were hired not drafted, not told what they were going to do. The Union Army sat down and negotiated wages with those soldiers to help them fight the Confederates because they had logistical advantages, they knew the terrain, and they had already invoked fear into the Confederate soldiers. So the Union Army sat down and negotiated a section of those soldiers to come down and fight with them, and they broke off from the Knights of Liberty, joined the Union Army, and helped defeat the South.
Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome.
So don't pretend to tell me that arms and minorities in this country don't have a developmental course and the foundation of this country, from this country trying to keep them from having them,
right,
to this country being free because we had them, up until today when people are still trying to strike us for it. So when guys like me start telling these stories, I said this and I say this with love. My people everywhere that are always like, why does it have to be about race? Listen to me and listen to my heart, because I mean this with love. When I talk, shut up. When I'm debating politicians, shut up. All you need to do is sit in the back and be like, yeah, what he said. That's what I need you to do. Now go educate yourself to make sure I'm not full of it, right? But what he said, because those are the things that they find very hard to come back to.
Yeah.
Right. And those are what the guns are telling. So the gun case, you see a family actually fleeing from a slave catcher. You see the family, this is all in the case. You see the family hide in the swamps and the marshes, because that's where, gators were and frogs and stuff you can eat, right? And you can hide from dogs. So they were hiding in the marshlands and things like that, running to freedom. And there's a great image of the slave collar. And for those who don't know what a slave collar is, when slaves were caught, they had this big collar with spikes sticking off of it. It was made in different ways, different variations of it, but it was meant as a way to torture and prevent you from running and having human contact. So the slave collar was put on, and I stuck that image in there. And there's a great quote by Harriet Tubman that states, I've seen hundreds of escaped slaves, but I've never seen one who was willing to go back and be a slave. And what that means is not only for the people that were physically slaves. America, listen to me. That woman was wise well beyond her years. When you think about that quote, we fought for freedom.
That's right.
This country has fought for freedom. Why in the hell would we want to return that and go back to a state of servitude? Like, why would we want to do that? We're already free. So it is more than just African-American experience. Yes, it's a story that I am going to take very personal, right? For obvious reasons.
Right.
At the same time, it is an American story. So it is the support and the telling of that allows these guns to be different. This is different than just picking up your Gucci'd out Glock. This is different than this is you actually getting in on history and getting a fantastic gun, by the way. But when we even talk about Moses Dixon, here's the thing about him, and this is why he, to me, when I really start deep diving into this guy, I'm like, I've literally found my hero. So Moses Dixon is my hero. This is why. That was a man that was wise enough to know that I'm going to do what physically needs to be done because you've given me no other choice, because you won't let these people go.
No other choice.
So I'm going to do what physically needs to be done, and I'm going to motivate. I'm going to rile up. I'm going to use resources and intellect to build an army so big. We are going to, if we lose, you're going to know that you were in a fight. Like, we are going to bring the pain to your front door. But when all that was over, when all that calmed, you know what Moses Dixon did? That man started school. He was all about the growth of women. So he started the Templar. It's the School of Templar. It was Lincoln University in the state of Missouri, and he also started I think it's the Daughters of Templar. And I may be screwing that up on a little bit, but it was a way for not only regular people to get education, everybody to get education. He started a university, and he also founded building resources for women to be strong.
Wow.
Right. So just for women, he did community outreach. He educated people. He taught them how to write. He got them into trades. I was like, am I a descendant? Like, what is this? Right? I'm like, oh my God. So Moses Dixon is like a personal hero of mine. And
awesome.
And there's the thing, I didn't even know all that about him when I was starting to do what I was doing. I had no idea he went that far. And so for me to even deep dive and get more of an education, and he's buried in a great state of Missouri in a suburb called Sunset Hills. So it is personal to me. And then the third case, which I'll be very, very quick about, is that we just released the NRA. That case is about the East St. Louis riots in 1917, which is 4 years before Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
Where
okay.
250, and the story behind that, long story short, I'm not a union or labor expert by any stretch of the imagination, but what essentially happened is there was a union dispute. Blacks were used as scabs to go in and do the work. The white people didn't like that. And so they essentially started randomly attacking the neighborhoods and terrorizing people. There was a cop that came into the neighborhood just doing his job. He wasn't there for malice intent, mistaken identity, and he was killed, right? Which is sad because there's no reports in history that he was there doing anything wrong. It was just a case of mistaken identity. But so they used that as an excuse to go in and just start eradicating people before Tulsa. So they went and drove people off rail cars, and you can see the paper where they were just dragging them off rail cars, clubbing people to death in the middle of the street, stabbing and shooting and killing people. So the reports are 250, but we know it's closer to 1,000.
Wow.
People that they went through and murdered. When those individuals tried to run, St. Louis is a little bit different from most cities. We have 4 sides to our city, north, south, east, and west. But our east side actually sits in the state of Illinois, right?
Yeah.
And we're connected by a couple of bridges now, but then it was just the East Bridge. So when people from Illinois tried to run over to Missouri law enforcement was told to stand guard and make them go back. So you couldn't even run from murder, right?
Wow.
You want to tell me that people shouldn't have a right to defend themselves?
Absolutely.
Okay. So they ran back over there, they ran into the slaughter, and chaos ensued until this one group of people showed up. I couldn't make this up. This is pulled from the headlines of the newspaper. It reads, "The militia saves the Negroes." It was the militia that came and escorted those people to safety.
Yeah.
The militia might pop up in this little piece of paper somewhere. I don't know. We got them around here somewhere. Little piece of paper that everybody reads every now and then. They pop up somewhere that's kind of important. And it was those individuals that actually came over and escorted those people to safety, right?
People.
Not law enforcement. No.
Right.
Right. It was the militia that came and escorted those individuals to safety. So don't pretend to tell me, and those people in Howard, Illinois gun laws, even to this day. And so those individuals were not allowed to defend themselves at all. So they were just open for the slaughter, right? So don't pretend to tell me that gun control is good and gun control is not deceitful. Because when we look at what it has allowed to happen, it's very deceitful by nature. And make no mistake about it. Like you brought up the incident in Tennessee. You want to talk about the bonus marchers? We want to talk about wounded knee. I mean, I never will run out of cases, right? Because it is a story that is stories that need to be told. And one thing that ticks me off the most is or short-sighted. Like if you're going to challenge me, do yourself a favor, do your research first. When I am talking about what I'm talking about, I do things for a certain reason. First of all, America, hear me. Please, for the love of God, stop telling people to stop being prideful in who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Stop doing it.
Right.
Stop saying, well, you know what, man, I get it, you're black, or hey, I get it that you're a woman, or hey, I get it that you're Native American, but we're all Americans. People can celebrate being American and still celebrate their individuality.
Absolutely.
Right? So let's get that out the way too. When people try to attack me for that, but they don't compliment me for doing a video called They Suffered As Well. And I don't know if you ran into that video in your research.
Did not.
They Suffered As Well is a video that I did dedicated to the Irish Catholic in this country, talking about how they were called potato monkeys, had bad cartoons of them drawn, drugged out of their houses, abused by law enforcement, set on fire, thrown in mass graves, treated just a hair, and I mean just a hair better than the blacks. Mm-hmm. Just a hair better, right? So when I tell that story, and when you see me sitting down having a conversation with a Japanese American who, and I put the picture up on Instagram, who asked me, you know what, you bring a very interesting point about guns. We don't have guns in my country. I am going back home and I might have an audience with the emperor. Can you give me tips on how to debate him?
Wow.
How many people can say they've done that? So don't pretend to tell me that the methodical approach that I have is failing. It is working because it extends beyond just blacks. Whenever I have a Japanese native sitting down talking to me, telling me, can you please help me? Or I can go back home and I can have a conversation with them people about how we can get this to be better and why we should have ownership to gun rights. When I can have individuals and groups and churches say, okay, now we're up for it. When I can, Moms Demand Action, the Missouri chapter of Mom Demand Action, the head of it, I get a phone call from a guy who's definitely I don't use the word patriot a lot. This dude's a patriot, right?
All right.
And he got called to do a debate with moms. At the last minute, he was like, he knows me. He calls me up. He's like, hey, Kevin, or Katie, as he calls me. He's like, dude, I don't think I'm up for this one. And not because he couldn't debate. He didn't believe he could contain himself, right?
Okay. Yeah.
He's like, can you come in and can you take this one, dude? I'm like, yeah, I got you. So they had it set up at a local high school for obvious reasons, because this was in recent history. So
pure setup. Yeah.
Like the high school kids out. And it was actually hosted by a Missouri State Senator. He was the moderator because he wanted to know what his community wanted to do about guns. Right. So he is there. I'm in the middle. I'm going to invite two sides in. We're inviting the community in. Let's talk. Mom's demand action and this local gun shop owner. Well, Ian calls me. He's like, dude, can you take it? I said, sure, I'll take it. So I show up. The chapter leader of Moms comes out with notebooks. I'm talking about that thick notes. She's ready for Ian. One ready for me.
One ready for you.
One ready for me, right? And she was ready for Ian, not because Ian was going to be an easy debate. She was ready for him because she was expecting the normal talking points.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I set the tone of the meet. Well, I didn't set the tone, but I set the tone for who I was going to be throughout the conversation, blah, blah, blah. You know, we did all those things and prepping the audience. If, public speaking, you do that stuff. And then we commenced 3 hours. About a little bit over halfway through it, she wouldn't even talk to me no more. She just started yelling at the audience. Because I'm like, What else do you have? The moms crowd, and here's what they will never say out loud. So I debated her for 3 hours. She clearly lost the debate. I made her take a picture with me afterwards because we're still friends. Right? I don't hate you. I hate your stance on some stuff, but I don't hate you. And when she tried to do that, I help out in the communities. I'm like, when? Can you tell me the events?
Right.
All right. And I would love to have you come out to Aiming for the Truth. You want to come out with me? Because it's all about helping people, right? We're not going to talk guns. You want to, you start really putting stuff like, so what have you done? Oh, well, let me tell you my experience. Oh, this is where I'm from. So that community you say that you help, no, that's me. I like live and walk there. Well, law enforcement. Oh, well, you know what, man? I haven't spent 14 years in law enforcement. What do you want to talk about? So it's a debate and historical things. When I start bringing those up, I don't even have to get into the history right away. That stuff is tucked up in the safe. I don't really need it. I bring it out when it's relevant. But after 3 hours and she started yelling at the audience, what people don't know, because I will never say their names publicly. I will never put up the pictures. It's not about that. 2 of the ladies there with their mom's shirts on, okay, proud, have taken gun training from me.
Nice.
Awesome.
Right.
And guess what? They own guns.
Yeah.
There's a video of me now for anybody that would challenge that, because clearly, for obvious reasons, I'm not going to say who they are. Mm-hmm. That would be throwing a dagger in everything we all do, right? So I'm never going to put that out there. What I will say is this. There is a video of a teacher who was anti-gun, who came to one of my events. Now, that video is on Instagram. That teacher came to the event, stood up, and she stood on her morals and principles. She was like, no, I don't care what you say. This is how I feel. This is what I believe. Oh, okay. Played it smart. Didn't do what you normally see people do. Played it smart.
Anger, no yelling. Yeah.
Oh, you know what happened at the end of it? At the end of the event, because we were there doing a fundraiser, and she believed in aiming for the truth, so she came to be a part of the fundraiser.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we were done, I stood up in front and I put the video out, and she was gracious enough to allow me to do it. We stood up in front, and I told her, I said, I'm going to give you an award, because I was giving out awards that day. It was a shooting event, and I was giving out awards. And I reserved an award for her for being courageous and standing on her principles.
That's awesome.
But being polite about it, having educated debate, and being open for it. She was anti-gun then. She owns 6 guns now.
Wow.
You know why? Because we were polite and we did the conversation in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
She walked out of there with a range bag. Next thing you know, she's got 2, and that woman is off to the races. But she armed with the information about why guns are important. And after having that conversation, and the most important part, having an ally, she knows that if she disagrees with me, she can call me, and she doesn't have to worry about getting yelled at. She doesn't have to worry about being belittled. It's just going to be okay, like, why is the AR-15 important? Because we're still working on that one. We're still working on the AR-15.
But man,
right?
you know what you just
handguns out the way. She understands handguns. We got to get this rifle thing taken care of. But it is the slow progress like that. So when people are telling me, oh, we need more influencers, I'm like, yeah, I've done the state rallies. You can see me speaking to people at state rallies. I'm at the rallies. I'm at this. I'm at that. But it is a way to do things that is not being approached. So all that to be said, I would challenge you. You're going to go out and buy a salient something. You should buy the truth, right? Because that's going to, and not to mention, if you buy the gun, especially if you buy the top tier package, you get a free $200 training coupon from me, where you can come out and train with your gun, right? So that's $200 value right there. And you also, 10% of the proceeds that are mine to come out of that gun and go right back into aiming for the truth.
Awesome.
And on top of that, which is not a selling point, it's just something I thought would be cool to do. Hey, if you buy a gun from Smith & Wesson, not picking on Smith, but if you buy a gun from them, you just get the gun, right?
Sure, that's right.
Okay, so you buy my gun and I call you.
No doubt.
Because we're one large dysfunctional family.
That's great.
You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna call you, and we don't have to talk about the gun, man. Yeah, I've had 20 people order the gun, so we're about halfway sold out. We did that in 7 weeks.
Wow.
But all 20 of those people have heard from me.
That's awesome.
All of them, and they can, and we've said, and these are just good Americans. And look, I've had Asian people buy them, we've had Black people buy them, white people buy them, men buy them, women buy them, and I'm sitting on the phone with them, and it's a thank you. It's giving them the story of the guns more, and that's turned into talking about their kids. That's turned into talking about their child that's off in the service. That's turned into dads asking me for advice. That turned into one guy was giving me tips about starting to be a gardener. Like, I mean, it's just conversations that we don't normally get to have, but it brings the human element back to who we are.
Right.
So the truth in everything that I do. So it might not be the cool, high-speed, low-drag videos you're used to seeing. It might not be all this blah, blah, blah stuff. But, that's why I say I'm not here for product. I'm not here for merchandise. I'm here for a mission.
That's awesome.
So I went on a long rant there. But
no. I love it.
I
mean, that turns into friendships, right? I mean, and so for the listeners, look, I'll put some links in the show notes, and we'll put some pictures up on the blog. But you need to go Google it. The cases that Kevin is putting together here, it looks like it's laser cut foam. Yep. It's 3-dimensional. It's got a lot of very powerful imagery. There's a picture of one of the Truth pistols on the YouTube feed right now. You can see it. It's a beautiful piece of work done by Wayne Hammer over at MLS Customs. And I mean,
don't get in trouble.
Okay,
hold on. Don't get in trouble.
All right,
because Larry will kill you.
Okay.
So and let me do this real quick. So one thing I would like to say, guys, on videos, I get it that every time we see a gun, let me tell you something about my guns. Okay. My guns, and it doesn't just particularly pertain to this gun. Yeah. My guns are loaded. All right. So I'll clear it now because I don't mess around, sit around with a bunch of empty guns around me. Now, that being said, now it's cool. See that?
Right.
All right. Cool. All right. Now, this is the Truth, minus the magazine for obvious reasons now. But the machining work, all the machining work was done by J&L Machining.
Okay.
And all the Cerakote and framework was done by MLS Cuts.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
So it is definitely a beautiful piece. For those who aren't looking at it, this is for manufacturer reasons. This is the Truth. If you want to know the platform, it started as a HK VP9. Okay. So I teased the people at HK, said, "You're welcome for making your gun better." And they're good buddies, so I like to harass them. But this is the Truth. You can see if you're looking at it, what you're looking at here is the custom stippling job. So in thought of this gun, bringing the stippling all the way up to the back strap gives a uniform purchase. There is none of that slick polymer, so thus less slippage, right, in your hands. So you get a full texture grip all the way through. The other cool thing about the grip of this gun is that obviously one reason that people like HK is because of the ergonomics, right? And that's complemented by the removing the swell and the panels on these guns. Yeah. Well, you think you get this custom stipple job, so now you're kind of stuck with it. False. Every single panel that comes with the factory gun is matched stipple.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
So you can still switch out your panels,
man, that's
right?
awesome.
And still get the same look. We've there's reference stipple point, support hand stipple point under the trigger. The trigger guard internally, and I will definitely give Wayne all the credit for this because he thought about this, because I just complained and he came up with the solution. The canal up under the trigger there, right? Because I still have a callus on my finger, wherever that my finger is, from shooting this gun for years. But we changed that. So we got the Lobos International Industries trigger in it, but we also changed the internal canal on top of the guard. So if you look at me place my finger here, get no more finger drag.
Oh, yeah.
All right? So no more finger drag, so you don't have to worry about that. Thus, no drag. You're shooting faster. The gun performs better. This is the M-Force APL. I like M-Force products, so I decided to go with the M-Force light on my gun, and it looks beautiful. The machine work, one thing that might be kind of hard to tell, this gun is built to fight. So because of that, and because of all the things that I know I like to do, you see the serrations, they might look regular, but all the serrations are about doubled in depth.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, they're doubled in depth. So when you grab this, you feel it. Like I don't even know if I can. I don't know. You can't. Yeah, but it is a double in depth what you would normally get from the gun, easy, and that is matched front and back. They're machined exactly the same.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Okay, to the exact same depth. What you see here that's cut out of the side of the gun, the weight reduction in the slide was done to a point, to a very meticulous point. That yes, we have cleaned up your internals some to make them function better. However, the weight's reduced where you can get a nice gun that's going to be well balanced. It's going to perform. Your sickle rate's still going to be there. All those good things are going to be there. However, you get improvement and you don't have to worry about replacing the internals in your gun because we've weighted it perfectly to where if you run the crap out of this gun, you don't have to worry about finding me to get some proprietary spring or some spring you can't find. You can still drop your original parts back into this gun.
That's awesome. It
still works.
Yeah.
And we did that on purpose. This one has a silence coat threaded barrel in it. And let's see, we got Heine front and rear sights.
Okay.
Vortex Venom, and big shouts out to Vortex for jumping in on this project. So Vortex and Enforce. And you're talking about, by the way, you're talking about a 2A company that believes in this stuff, Enforce. Support Enforce. And big shouts out for Vortex for jumping in as well. So thus, after that was born the truth. So this is the gun. One thing I forgot. The European mag release on these guns, I like the European mag release personally, but you will get some slippage. You know, you run these guns hard enough. So there's a slight difference in the mag release, and it's actually stippled at your contact reference point.
Oh, wow.
So you have enough polymer to slide and lock in and just get a nice drop on a gun so you don't have to worry about missing magazine drops. On the front of it, which is kind of hard to see with the threaded barrel, but if you look at the front, right where the barrel is coming out, you would notice that the slide is actually cut into, right? Mm-hmm. So that groove, we kind of repurposed it. Wasn't the first gun to have that by any means necessary, but we made it at the right depth and at the right angle with this slide. So that is therefore, and if you look here, you can see scratches, right? Mm-hmm. Right there, because this is my gun and I shoot the crap out of it. But that being said, that little cut there, it's kind of harder to do with the threaded barrels, but if you have the flush barrel or you have the SK with a flush barrel, that little edge there, I told you guys, it's a fighting pistol. Any corner, any ledge, anywhere, stairs, something sharp off an automobile, instead of you trying to do one-handed manipulations and sticking something inside your barrel, you damage your barrel, you're probably out of the gunfight. That's meant to give you a purchase point to get onto something in your environment and run the slide off of that point, right, without damaging your barrel. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it's meant to be a fighting gun. We have the coffin cut up top, and this also comes in an SK version for a little bit smaller package. The SK does come compensated. You can get these models compensated. They come in 3 different configurations, but this is the decked out full daddy one. Now, you know what? The custom case, the class, the going back to community, the phone call, making it all personable, the great history story, a collector's item, if you will. Okay, minus the flashlight and not the flashlight, the weapon mounted light, and minus the optic here. This gun with the case is fully loaded, is $1975. You can look up any Gucci gun you want to. Mm-hmm. You're well over $2,000. Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Some definitely pushing into 3s. So I wanted to also put something out to where, it's a difference in price. Don't get me wrong. Well, and you also got to understand what this dang on gun costs out the box, just the original gun, right? So to be able to put something out there and put it at that kind of price point, and that's thanks to JNL, and that's thanks to Wayne, because everybody took a hit to make sure it could be affordable because we wanted Americans to have it. So this is the truth. So you get an awesome story, but you get a heck of a machine to run with it. Yeah, it is
very beautiful.
And you can get them in all black as well. A lot of people ask about the colors.
No, I like the red. I like the red.
I like the red too. It is the it's my baby. I like it.
Hey folks, David here. By now, regular listeners of the show are well acquainted with Mark and our friends over at Squared Away Customs. You already know that they are a manufacturer of high-quality custom Kydex holsters and carry gear for civilians, military, and law enforcement. But what you might not know is that Squared Away Customs is also your one-stop source for weapon-mounted lights and other firearms accessories. Mark, Corey, and the gang are now also stocking dealer for Polymer 80 frames and slides, and of course, have holsters to fit.
What is Polymer 80, you ask? They are 80% complete polymer frames that you finish out with Glock pistol components. Because you're building it, there's no serial number, no FFL required, and no registration needed. It's a great way to build a custom Glock-style pistol of your own creation. Squared Away Customs offers Polymer 80 frames compatible with Glock model 17, 19, 22, 23, 26, 27, 34, and 35 Generation 3 components. They come in 2 different grip styles and include features like an extended beaver tail, double undercut trigger guard, and a thumb ledge already built in. So, if you're looking for the next level of customization and performance from the Glock platform, head over to squaredawaycustoms.com and check out their Polymer 80 accessories and, of course, their Squared Away Customs Polymer 80 custom holsters today.
Yeah, it is. It is the it's my baby.
That's a sharp gun. Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about the relief around the muzzle there, anybody that thinks that you would never rack a gun that way, go watch a Will Petty video, Centrifuge Training. He will show you point blank him taking a gun and ramming it into like the air vent in a car and stuff like that to rack the slide. And yeah, man, I mean it's a fighting pistol, so that's great.
Man, that's what we built it for. We built it to fight. The sights, the reason we went with even the Heine sights and the Vortex Venom, and you can get different optics on here. You don't have to get. You can get any other popular optics. But my particular setup that I went with, if anybody's looking for recommendation, if you look there, I got a perfect co-witness.
Yeah.
Through the glass, right? So if the optic fails, I'm newer into red dots, and I say newer a couple of years, right? There have been guys been running them since their inception. So that being said, I don't trust electronics. Mm-hmm. Right, I got a natural thing without trusting electronics, so you get a perfect co-witness. So when I say this gun is meant to fight, it's meant to fight. It's just not another thing I want you to put up on your mantle. Like it's meant to go. So yeah, but that is. Oh, and also the mag well has been modified for a smoother load too.
You know, you mentioned the trigger guard and how it will rub your finger. That was one of the complaints that I had with the VP9. It never happened to me, but every time I took it to the range and let somebody shoot it, without fail, somebody'd say, "Well, it's rubbing my finger." You know, it rubbed the bottom of their trigger finger and put a blister. And it's like, well, yeah, I get it, and it's just the way that the thing was designed.
Yeah. Now you look at my hands. Now, people watching this, I'm not. These aren't little hands,
right?
Right.
What size glove do you wear?
I think now I wear 2X. I think.
Oh, golly, man. Yeah.
And if you look at my finger, if you can see it,
yep.
I'm not doing anything but holding the trigger where you will hold it, and you look at that clearance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No drag.
Clearance. Yeah.
No drag. Right. So it's getting into those nuances of your firearm to make sure. And I wanted people to know too. Like you might not see me out doing a whole bunch of stuff, like the high speed, low drag videos. You'll see some of it. We got to make sure we talk about the event too. Which shame on you for not coming, but we're going to talk about that. But this is another way for me to also show that do a little bit more than just advocate for stuff. Like there is a cool function of what I do. I just didn't want to. Putting the gun out by itself just wouldn't have been good enough.
Yeah,
it had to be. And then people are like, "What do you mean you got the first gun that fights gun control?" Got the first gun
that fights gun control.
That fights gun control. Exactly what I said.
Yeah.
And then you get to do it in a nice, smooth, elegant, beautiful way. And then it is. And then the Truth C, which is the SK in this version, it's funny though, because I like my friends, man. They're like, so how much is it's been called the because it's the compact, so it's been called the half truth. Somebody has called it the little lie.
There's always somebody in the crowd that's gonna do that, right? Yeah.
But it's good. So that was the Truth. And big shouts out huge to like Enforce. Oh, another thing with the Truth too that I forgot to mention. Because I want people to have self-protection as well. That's another big part. You can actually, and I'm gonna get up and grab that because nope, I can't. I don't know where it's at. So nope, it's upstairs. But there's two things. One, you get an Enforce TFX handheld flashlight.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
With every gun for free.
Nice.
Every gun, and the flashlight is Cerakoted to match your gun.
Oh wow. Okay.
And it's just free. You just get it. Right.
Awesome.
So you get a free flashlight with every gun, and I forgot to mention that. So that is another bonus of getting the gun, and that thing by itself is $100 value that we just throw in. By the time you Cerakote it, you're about $120, $130. So we just throw that in for you for free. If you order it with this guy, if you order it from us, I think we give you like 20% off of the light and Cerakote for free. So we'll do that while we're doing your gun. And then you get, if you get this guy, we actually get it to you at cost. We don't upcharge you at all. Because I want you to be able to get a package that's ready to go. So, and what else? Oh, the holsters. Which are upstairs for the event that I have coming up. But to add a little bit of creativity and uniqueness to it, the IWBs and OWBs, so inside the waistband, outside the waistband, that are optional. They are add-ons that you can order from 77 Solutions. Actually are wrapped. For Tulsa, the holster is wrapped in the original newspaper article.
Oh, you're kidding me.
No, I am not kidding you. Cool. It is wrapped. So you can literally pick up your holster and read the paper.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Right. So it is not like any other gun you've ever.
No, that is
just
really cool.
Definitely not.
So you get that kind of cool factor. Like, I mean, I don't expect many people to be like, hey, let me pull my holster off and catch up on things, right? But it's still kind of the cool thing. Actually, I put up a video on Instagram the other day with the holsters on it. I think it's like 5 or 6 posts down. But it's a video out showing the holster on in a video, showing the new holsters that are out. So
that is awesome.
It's really paying attention to those small details and putting out something that America.
That's fun stuff. Yeah, people may be wondering why you need a separate light. And we had Randy Harris on the show back in it's like the early 20s of the episodes. He's a trainer with Suarez International, and as he was fond of saying that, there's occasionally you're going to need to light something up, and the police might not take kindly to you using your gun light to do it, right? So you're walking to the car, you need to look for your keys. You're not going to whip out your pistol with your weapon light. You probably want a flashlight that doesn't. It's not attached to a gun. So
exactly.
Yeah. Very good.
Very important.
All right.
Now, can you kindly explain to the people why you're not coming to my event?
So that is next week, isn't it? It's the week after next. So, and I've probably got maybe the best excuse possible for this, but that is the week before my oldest daughter's wedding. And so I am pretty well locked in on my time off from work, and also some pretty big expenses there. So
it's a valid one.
It's a valid one. I know we really wanted to do it because of the connection with you and the opportunity to sit down with other podcasters and other influencers and see what we could do to help you out with your mission. So
well, it's gonna be pretty cool. I would say this about and I'll briefly tell the people what it is.
Yep.
But so essentially, in my true nature, if you see a problem, you can complain about it, be an observer, or you can fix it.
Do something about it, right?
So even with the and this is one thing I tell the gun community about accepting diversity, and I'm talking about just diversity in thought. People that just see stuff different, right?
Right.
And I was just sitting back and I'm like, you know what, man? For me, only being out here 3 years, I'm just getting to 3 years and being in the public eye. I've done everything, and I've been blessed because I was surrounded by a bunch of great people. I wound up meeting a lot of awesome people that were willing to help out, willing to, they see a guy trying, they see a guy giving a message, and they responded. So a lot of great people helped out. But you're talking about cutting on a camera 3 years ago, and when you talk to anybody who does YouTube or even podcasts like you guys, you'd be like, hey, I'm going to cut on a camera in less than 3 years. I'm going to be on the cover of Time.
Yeah.
No,
right.
Yeah.
Like, good luck with that, right? You're gonna be in the two-way community and think you're gonna make it on the cover of Time magazine. Yeah, dude, keep dreaming. Right? Yeah, I made it not only on the cover with 240 something odd other people with some agreed, some disagreed with me, but it's okay. That's fine. After listening to my story when they did the audio, because I don't know if you guys know, but you can actually roll over it on the website and you can hear the audio.
Yep.
So when I went and did my audio, you were supposed to talk for 3 minutes.
No.
From
Yours is lengthy.
Yeah. Mine is like triple that time length, and the entire thing was 26 minutes long.
Oh, yeah.
I had the audio guy emotional, right?
That's
but
awesome.
It needed to be said because I was there representing gun owners.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not leaving here without getting it out, right? So,
yeah.
I got a responsibility to people. And so I went and did that and had that talk. And like he said, and that's why they put me at the top of the table right in the middle. It's
right.
like, people need to hear that story because you don't get to hear that. And that's what I wanted to do. But where the event comes in, and it's like people kept asking me like, how? Like how, you know, and how, and you know what? I was less than 500 subscribers on Instagram, I think. It was like 300 and something, but it was really, really low. And I already had 2 corporate sponsors. Wow. I'm like, how? And I was like, well, all right. So I kept getting people asking me questions like, dude, I can't respond to 25, 30 direct messages a day with everybody want to have conversation. I can't do it. It's impossible. So I decided to pay those blessings forward. God put the right people in my life, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm in a unique position to do something I don't see the industry doing. So I decided to have a train and learn industry event here in Missouri. So what we're essentially going to do is get people that are podcasters, writers, bloggers, YouTubers, content creators, marketing executives. We're going to bring them all in, and I'm going to take the resources I know, the people that I know that are good at what they do, and myself, and we're going to have essentially a 3-day workshop and teach 2A people how to be better business people. And we're going to teach them how to grow their brands, how to do better at what they do. And that's not just me. That's going to be the people that I know I can knock on the door and say, hey, dude, I need help. And, you know, they step up and help. So they're going to come share their expertise. So we got BSO channel. Curtis is going to come, and he's going to talk about how to do videos. That dude is a scientist. I don't know if people know that, but he's a legit smart dude. And stop teasing him online. I don't think people realize how big he is. He might crack you over his back if you're
right.
He's a pretty big boy. But he's a smart guy. So he's coming up speaking. I got marketing reps from 2A companies coming in speaking. And I got people from all different backgrounds. I got social media analysts coming in speaking. So we're going to have a workshop Friday in the evening. And then Saturday, we're going to shoot guns. We're going to put people through training. Nice. Me, Ken Scott, right? Ken Scott with Prevectus Group and myself are going to lead the training. But we're also going to have adjunct instructors. So Corinne Mosier, 3-gun shooter. Yeah. Corinne Mosier is going to lead a section of the training. And so is Dustin Poot, the Springfield nationally ranked competition shooter, are going to lead them. So they're coming out to do it. And we're going to do a starter handgun class, because a lot of people that get out here and fight for our rights and do different things, the training might not be their thing, right? So right. I wanted people to come to a place where, look, guess what? There are going to be some Green Beret dudes there. They happen to run businesses, so they're coming for that. We got a couple of Navy SEALs coming. We have myself. We have Ken Scott. We got competition shooters. But guess what? We are all going to start where you're at, right? Because that is my thing. We don't do egos on my range. Right? So I don't give a damn about you being special forces. You're going to lose that ego out here, right? And we're going to all get out there and we're going to all work together, because if I can get you better at handling a firearm, not only are you going to be safer, right? When you go out and the people that you interact with from your podcast or your writing or whatever you do, you might run into something and be like, oh, I know better. And you can transfer that information to them, right? And then if you decide to put up a video where you got 10,000 people following you, and you decide to put up a real simple video just about draw stroke. Well, guess what? You went and learned how to do that. So now you're sharing information with people. So they get to learn, makes you better, you make us better, thus we all win, right? So I want to get people out there and give them training, and then we're going to do an anti-carjacking class. We're going to speed it up a little bit. So we're going to be shooting from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. We play no games on my range. Woo. We're going to go from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. with a nice break in between, okay? The break in between, we are going to have a hog that is going to be slaughtered the day before and freshly roasted as we shoot.
Oh, whole hog. That's awesome.
About 70 yards back and see the pig, turn and doing this thing. And then we're going to serve up the fresh hog, get everybody a nice something to eat. We're going to sit on the side of a nice creek, listen to the running water, fellowship, relax, enjoy each other. When the sun starts to set, we're going to go over to our vehicle course. We're going to have a nice time running the vehicle course. And then once the sun sets and it's completely dark, me and a few of the fellas and the ladies that are more sped up, a little bit different of a skill set, we're going to do demos of running vehicles at night. And we'll let some people jump in and participate, but we're going to be running vehicles at night, doing courses. And trust me, it's going to be drones, smoke bombs, pops. It's going to be an experience.
Wow.
But to get out there and have fun with that, then after we finish with that, somebody's tired, they want to go to sleep because they're wimps, that's fine. But the cool kids are all going to go hang out, and then we're going to light a bonfire, get out the adult beverages, do this right thing with the guns, get out the adult beverages, and sit around and fellowship and just talk about the experience. Then we're going to work up the next day, the last day of the event. We're going to get instructors or aspiring instructors out first thing in the morning, 6:45 a.m., right? Because if you want to teach, you are up, you are working. This is what you should be doing. We're going to get people out. We're going to get them on a range and talk to them about being better instructors, and not about the skill, not about how to squeeze a trigger, not that. How are you communicating and associating with your student?
Right.
How are you transferring information to your student? That kind of stuff. We're going to do that. And then when we're wrapping that up, about 9:30 a.m., all the other people are going to arrive, and all we're going to do is for all the companies that sponsor the event, their products are going to be laying out on the table, and I'll tell you why I did that. There are, whether people want to believe this or not, just because you see somebody on a podcast, or just because you see them in a magazine, or just because you see them on TV, doesn't mean they're rich. Might be hard to believe, doesn't mean they're rich. And they might want to do content or create things with products that they can't afford to buy. It's not because they are poor, like just dirt poor. It's just they got other obligations. They're not going out buying guns like that. So I'm going to have, for people that want to create content and want to have stuff to write about and want to do collaborations is another big thing. Canic is going to be one company doing it. We have Facts and Firearms, who's a title sponsor, obviously Enforce and their products, and a few more companies. Eagle Imports is sponsoring the event. We're going to have guns out there. The Truth is going to be there. Ken Scott's Perfectus Elite's going to be there. We're going to have those guns laid out for you to go create content with.
Awesome.
Right? So you don't have to worry about calling and negotiating your way to a gun or, hey, can you guys see me a T&E gun? No, we're going to have the guns out there for you. And we have, I am proud to say, the event was supposed to be capped off at 40 people. We were going for about the middle, get about 20 to 25 people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had to overextend it. So now we're at about 50 people total.
Wow.
So, and these are all influencers, all people that are in the industry in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But what I did was I took the minimum off as far as followers. I understand that there are certain events that people look at. You see all these cool stuff popping up on YouTube, and you can't go to those events. Not because you couldn't travel, not because it's not up the street from your house. It's because, guess what? They don't think you're cool enough to come.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
BS. We are all as important. I don't care. Hear me. I don't care nothing about me gracing the cover of Time magazine. I care nothing about the fact that I'm on NRA TV as much as most of the commentators on NRA TV, right? That's awesome. That is all cool, fine, and dandy. I am still no better than you. Right? So to me, my responsibility is, hey, guess what? I can do something cool. Let me see if I put this thing on and people show up. Cool. Oh, wow. People are really showing up. Cool. Fine. I don't care. You got 10 followers, 6 followers, 100,000 followers. Kareem Moser's got 100K. I don't care about your following. Curtis has been viral more times than I can count with his content. I don't care. I care about people getting in a room trying to make other people better at what they do.
Awesome.
That's all I care about. So there was no, and it was funny because people were like, man, I would come to your event, but you guys got the big followers. And so I would get the email and I would look and I'd be like, yep, if it's a phone number in there, I would just call people. And I did this, I think I did it 3 times. I would just dial the number and be like, hey, is this so-and-so? Yeah, man. Oh, what? This is KD. Oh, KD. And I'll let them get that out the way. And I just immediately start cursing at them. Like immediately. And I get quiet. I'm like, you are never going to succeed at what you do if you don't think you're important.
That's right.
Why is it that I think you're more important than you? I believe in you more than you believe in yourself. All right. Get your ass to this event. And they signed up, and it's getting people out there. But the last day is the day I'm most excited about, not only because people have stuff there to create content with, so they can actually go back with a library. There is no reason nobody leaves with a library of at least 6 months. No reason. We're going to have that much stuff out there. Wow. But it's the collaborations.
Yeah.
Because everybody gets to work with everybody. So you get to work with people from all around the country, and all those different followings get to cross-pollinate with each other. So now we're unifying people. Here's the sub thing. This is not the reason I did it, but it is a positive consequence. I sat back and I thought about it, and I'm like, you know what? We didn't do it for this reason at all. Wasn't even in the thought process. But I'm like, back to what we're doing as far as making sure America understands what freedom looks like and how diverse we are. I'm like, let me get this right. If I'm standing back from this thing, looking at it, and I'm looking at it knowing that we are being told by certain political entities and social entities that the Second Amendment is full of old white dudes and you'll never make it anywhere, right? That whole thing. Okay. So let me get this right. There is an event being held for industry people, right? where they're not restricting you, where you got to be just one of the cool kids to come. It's actually about growing your business. This is not about just getting together shooting guns. This is about you being better at your business. So they're actually investing in the education and the business aspect of what's being done to make these companies more successful. Okay, so after they do that, they're going to go shoot guns. And let me get this straight. It's a black dude that put it on. It's another black guy that's co-instructing. They got a woman that's going to be teaching on the range. And they got a white guy that's going to be teaching on the range. So all these guys are working together. It's in the middle of Missouri, which is in the middle of the country. People from all over the country are coming. And the crowd of people that are coming are Hispanic, Asian, white, black, male, female. There are female presenters at the workshops teaching you how to make your business better, Mr. Tough 2A guy, right? So when you look at all these things, it's like, oh, I stood back and I said, I didn't even mean to do that. Look at that.
It kind of wrecks the narrative, doesn't it?
It is like, everybody's like, oh, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the rest of the world's so busy telling you who you can be around and who you shouldn't be around and who's like you and who's not like you. It wrecks the narrative when you see what the 2A really, the community is really like. So
yep, kills it. And then you have a guy come in and it's like, you see a problem, you fix it, right? From the business acumen of it, it's like, oh man, nothing against the cool kids. I remember 8 years ago watching all the exclusive shoots. Like, oh man, I wish I could be there. You know,
right?
You know, that kind of stuff. You know, just being a guy, just clicking on videos like everybody else. And I'm like, yep, not doing that. Right now, I expect you to show up and be professional. Don't get me wrong, but not doing that. I don't believe in it. And you know what? I'm one of them guys. I tell people all the time, and hopefully you can attest from this from meeting me in person. I am probably the most interactive dude that you even run into, because I always want people to feel like I'm your neighbor. I don't want you to feel like, you know, they put under the NRA app and I was like having a fit. I'm like, why am I under celebrity? Like, you know, like it's listed under celebrity. And I was like, oh dude, you're under the celebrity thing for the NRA. I'm like, that's cool. I get it. Don't treat me like that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, the thing I noticed about you when I knew that we wanted to talk to you before we ever went, but when I started looking at the NRA's material and I was scrolling through the list of appearances and where we might be able to catch people that we wanted to talk to, and it was like, you scroll, you scroll, you scroll, you're everywhere. You were wanting to talk to everybody. You were at every booth. And I love that because you made yourself accessible. And I know that wasn't easy because it was a, long day at stressful events and a lot of talking. I mean, we ran into people that completely lost their voices just doing that much talking.
Oh, yeah.
So it was really awesome to see that you were out there doing your thing and making yourself available to people like us. So we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Kevin?
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. You know what? The pleasure is actually all mine because I am humbled to know that I'm on the list. You know, could have went and talked to Chuck Norris. Now, who the hell am I? I might get karate chopped in the neck for just saying his name right now. I'm pretty sure he's in my house.
That's right. It may be somewhere under the bed or in a closet. Yeah.
Jerry Miculic's running around. You know what I mean? Like there are definitely other people to run around and talk to. So for somebody to, for the hundreds of people that stopped and wanted to talk to me, it's humbling to me. Like I don't have that, and not accusing anybody else of it, but I just don't have that thing where it's like I'm better than thou. To me, the pleasure is coming to. There's one thing I like about NRA show over SHOT Show. NRA show is the public. It's the normal public.
That's
and
right.
SHOT Show is cool. Don't get me wrong. I love SHOT Show, but the NRA is something different because I get to shake hands and I'm doing stuff like there are a couple of pictures of me harassing kids, and and I was running around seeing kids doing the wrong thing with the guns. They were like, linked. They couldn't. Guns aren't loaded. Clearly, no firing pins. Doing wrong things. And I'm stopping, giving kids safety lessons. Like on my way to appearances, I'm like, "Hey, Dad, can I talk to the kids?" Dad's like, "Yeah." Kids, boom, boom, boom. This is who I am. I'm like down on one knee talking to them. Bam, I'm like putting stickers on kids' chests as I'm running through. Like that stuff to me is fun, and it shows people that this is a community, right?
Yeah.
And I'm humbled that people want to meet me, and so that's why I always book myself at those booths. And they call like, "Hey, Kev, you know it?" Like, "Yep." "Hey, we want." "Yep." "Hey, yeah." Just do it, and wherever I'm supposed to be, you'll see me running through the show. Getting to where I got to go. But
you're doing a good thing. You're doing a good thing. We, the company I work for, the founder has his saying, and it's kind of like beat into all of us as part of a culture, but it really resonated with me. It's good people beget good people, right? And I mean, you're doing a good thing, and that's why people are drawn to you, right? It really is. So let me ask this. We'll kind of wrap up with this thought. And first of all, I want to say we had some notes, and I think we got through half of them. You're welcome to come back anytime you want to. I want to continue the conversation. You tell me when you want to do it. We'll get you back on here. But how can we and our listeners help you with your mission as a collective, as the 2A community at large, but also as individuals? How can we partner up with you and help you out?
Few ways. I'm glad you asked that question. So a few ways. One, all the social medias, interact and follow them, and ask your friends to do the same, right? Because that's the only way we spread the word nowadays. This isn't something that, as much as I've been on the news, this isn't something they're going to put on mainstream media, right? So the social media, until they totally cripple us, and podcasts and things like that, are the way we have to go. So do that. It's, I know you're going to put all the tags in there and stuff like that. So follow NOC Firearms Training on every platform you can, or Kevin Dixie. Everybody calls me KD too, so please feel free to be very informal with me and just call me KD. It is that will help. As far as actions beyond that, if you're in the market for a new gun, buy the truth. That'll help. That'll be awesome. I want to sell this out. I want to say it's sold out. All right. Mm-hmm. So that'll be a really, really awesome thing to do. And I should have told you too. They actually start at $14.75 is where they begin. The one I showed you was the higher end one. But buy a truth. If you're not able to do that, please, if nothing else, donate to Aiming for the Truth or become a Patreon. So Patreon is awesome. GoFundMe is cool too. So it's GoFundMe/Aiming for the Truth. Okay. And a Patreon, which will be awesome. Patreon is patreon.com/NOC Firearms. So it is, those ways will be great, and share videos and share content, but physically, financially, we could use a lot of help. And definitely engaging in sharing content. Oh, I put out discount codes and use them. Gotcha. And here's why. I want you, if you come over and if you appreciate, and you probably don't, nobody's going to agree with 100% of anything everybody says, right? But if you can agree with overall what the mission that I'm on is, and just as in its totality, support those companies that you see on my pages, because guess what? Those companies keep this thing going. Right. And I don't make money from discount codes. I know that's a thing, like, you get an affiliate kickback and blah, blah, blah. I don't. All right. So, and I will openly tell you if it is one that I do. So when I'm putting out discount codes for like you to get some breakthrough clean, or to get some gear from Proper, whether it be a bag or some pants or some boots or whatever, or I'm putting it out for Walker, and big shouts out to Walker too. So if I'm doing something like that, go out and support those companies, because I need those companies to know that people are paying attention, that they are behind a different mission. So go out and use discount code. I don't get anything for it, but you get to save money, and they, why not? And they get to know that they're being supported. Right, like, yeah. So
somebody
go
uses
to Walker.
The discount code, then the company knows that they got that code from you. They know they're listening to you, and they know that they're supporting the right cause. The right cause. So yeah, when I call up said company and say, hey, it's time for the next mission, this is what we're on, it's a no-brainer, right? They're like, yeah, because America's paying attention. So yeah, use those codes. I mean, and look, man, I got some pretty good codes. My discount code with Walker, and for people who don't know, Walker makes all your hearing protection. My discount code with them is 30%. Wow. Ooh. Good. Yeah. So go to walkersgameear.com and use the code KD30. It's 30%. That is not chump change. Right. The discount code with Proper, if you go to proper.com, is NOC25. It's 25% off and free shipping. Like, these are, I want you to get, and I want people to have stuff. And these companies understand that my mission is to see people properly equipped and see them involved. So the discount codes are sometimes a little bit bigger than other ones, sometimes not as big, but sometimes a little bit bigger, because it gives people more incentive to actually get into the sport and get things on their bodies. The other one, the other one. BreakthroughClean.com for all your cleaning stuff. All you gun people need cleaner. It's NOC for no other choice, BT for Breakthrough, NOC BT20. It's 20% off, dude. And so that might not be much for like a $6 thing of cleaner, but you go get you a big cleaning ensemble. Oh yeah. That is a pretty good bucket, right? Pretty good discount in the bucket. So use the codes. Share stuff. If you have something positive to say, tag a company in it.
tag me in it. If you're like, hey, I like the fact that Proper, I like the fact that Walker, I like the fact that Fiocchi, I like the fact that these guys are supporting the mission. And let me tell you what Fiocchi does, because people need to hear this. Everybody does a great job that I work with. And remember, we support those that support us. But Fiocchi supplies me ammunition, not for me just to be seen with their ammo. Fiocchi is the reason I can go out and train people that can't afford ammo.
That's spectacular. Yeah, that is really
so Eagle Imports helps me with guns so we can have people shoot.
Right.
Or they have guns to shoot. Like, we're doing things a little bit different. So, but that's why I can keep the mission going. So when we're out doing physical things with families, a family that doesn't have those means, they're like, yeah, but man, your training costs, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, if it's family training, well, that's free. And guys, look, I got guns and I got ammo. And guess why I have guns and ammo? I have guns and ammo because these companies like Fiocchi, Eagle Imports, Breakthrough Clean, Walker, Proper, these companies believe in you, whether you know it or not. So they supply me with your hearing protection. They supply me with your glasses. They've supplied me with your ammo. We've got guns. The range has given us a spot to let you shoot at for free at the range STL West. So if I'm doing something with you and your family, let's do it, because the gun community believes that you have a right to be free. So support those companies, guys. When you see me saying something about them, tag them and tell them, thanks.
Man, those companies are flat out telling your students that their lives are important and valuable.
Yep.
That is powerful stuff. Good for them. That is great to hear the companies doing that. So let me ask you, I guess the final thing, how do people connect with you after the show? Where do they find you online? Can you rattle off the social media addresses and things like that?
Oh, yeah. So first of all, don't yell at me about my website, but it's nootherchoice.net, and it needs a lot of upgrades. Leave me alone in advance. Thank you very much.
Your website does not look bad.
Yeah. Nootherchoice.net is the website. But please stow that in your memory or lock it into your browser. The other ways to keep track of me, social media. So it's pretty much the same on all the platforms, whether it be, I don't do Twitter a lot, I'll be honest with you. But you can find me on Twitter, but Facebook, Instagram, NOC Firearms Training.
Okay.
It's the same on both. The only difference is on Facebook, after NOC, put a space, spell out the word firearms. After that, put a space, spell out the word training. But it's NOC Firearms Training on both platforms. You can also look up KD for Kevin Dixie, KD of NOC on both platforms. It'll pop up. You can also look up my name, Kevin Dixie. I'll pop up all over the place. So that's how you can keep up with me on social media. I do have a Use of the Tubes channel. I do have one of those. It's NOC Firearms Channel. Also the same name on Gunstreamer, which is the YouTube alternative that allows you to do what the heck you want to do.
That's right.
As long as you're responsible. So you can also, same name over there on Gunstreamer. And you can, what else? What other ways you can touch me? There's a lot of ways.
Got you on Instagram too.
Yeah, Instagram, 2 pages over there. Twitter is NOC Firearms Training, but once again, I'm not on Twitter a lot. But if you have a Twitter handle, you can talk to me on there. I will respond to you. And I think those are all the ways to get in touch with me. Take training. That's another good way to help out too. I forgot that. Sign up for training. You can go to our, Shopify store, noc-where.myshopify.com. That's also in the link in the bio on the Instagram page. You can go over there, browse through the training, pick a class, sign your butt up, and come train with me.
Awesome.
It is, man, there are a lot of ways. You can also go over to the same store and you can buy a shirt. You can get one of these cool hats.
The cool hat? Yeah, I like the logo. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You can get one of these cool hats. And on the back of the hat, because my slogan is be prepared.
Oh, look at that.
So it tells you to be prepared.
Nice.
You can go over there and get you some hats. You can also go get cool shirts made by Force and Freedom, all in that NOC store.
Okay.
Getting a shirt is always cool. So I got some pretty cool shirts over there. My favorite is Violence is the Problem, Accuracy is the Solution shirt. That is my favorite. There's also, because I'm from the Midwest, so, I say a burl instead of barrel. I don't know how to say it's burl. I don't care what people say. It's a gun burl. It's what it is. So we got a Burl King shirt over there that's pretty cool. It's a couple other really cool designs. There's a shirt over there that says, which is one of my sayings, my ancestors paid the price. I'm just a receipt.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
So that shirt's over there. It's a couple other cool designs. So go buy some swag. Do that stuff so you can support that way on the NOC store. So I think that's it.
And Kevin, if people want to host you, if they want to bring, Aiming for the Truth or NOC training to their area to host an event, can they reach out to you and do that?
Yep. Shoot me an email, noccccw@gmail.com.
Awesome.
noccccw@gmail.com. If you want to do training, if you want to bring Aiming for the Truth, email aimingforthetruth@gmail.com. So if you want to do both, just CC one of them.
Cool.
Right, and we'll respond to you accordingly. So to do that is relatively easy. If you want to do training, it's just well, it depends on what training you have, but and where you're at in the country. But on average, there's a 10 student minimum.
Okay.
All right. We like to have those students signed up, and all you have to do is coordinate it. So I tell people, if you're the one that's like, oh, I want to have you, well, guess what? You're my point of contact. So I need you to reach out so we can make that happen. If you are close in vicinity, we can sometimes cut those students down. Like if you're a 4-hour drive from me, I'm in St. Louis, I'm in Missouri. If you're in Tennessee, especially Western Tennessee,
right.
It's not a bad drive for me. We can get 6-7 students in a row. We don't need 10, right? But if you're in,
Panhandle of Florida or something like that, right?
Dude, got to be able to cover costs, right? So we can talk about that. Just shoot an email, but definitely look for a 10 minimum unless you're really close to me. If you want to bring Aiming for the Truth to your town, here's all you need for Aiming for the Truth. You need to be able to reach out to us, one, be willing to be a point of contact or connect us with a point of contact. And all we need is a building. Awesome. So your local church, community center that normally just donate their space, just say, hey, got this event. We lock down some dates. Once we lock down the dates, we're off running, and everything else after that is simple. But the reason we're going to Chattanooga, the reason we're going to Memphis, the reason we are going to Florida, the reason we're going to Atlanta, the reason we're going back to South Carolina, the reason we're traveling to all these cities is because somebody there said, I want this, and they got up off their butts and they made it happen, right? So I need a point of contact in these areas. So let that be you, man, and just go for it. And then you could be a part of history.
Make the phone call. That's right.
Yeah,
awesome.
Do it. Oh, if you want to call, man, I'm so glad you got me. You can give me a call. I'm going to be honest with you. Emailing me is the best way to reach us.
Yeah.
But if you have to call, if it is a phone call that is warranted, I will always advise to email first because I am been blessed enough to have a coordinator start assisting with Aiming for the Truth.
Awesome.
But please email first. But if you need to call, it's area code 314-699 4466. Once again, that's area code 314-699-4466. If you need to call about either Aiming for the Truth or NOC Firearms Training, you can dial that same phone number. So, but reach out, be engaged, be interactive. Yeah, man. I will tell you in advance, the only thing I'm going to bore people with, do not, I hate to tell you, don't come on my social stuff or my anything looking for an argument, because I'm not going to give it.
Right.
I'm all about discussion. We can definitely have a talk because I don't expect you to, even if you're on my side, like I'm pretty sure if we kept talking, we're going to find something.
We'll find something sooner or later. Yeah.
But it doesn't, that's not the big thing to me. So I am getting better and better and better with that. So I will have a discussion with any mature adult.
Awesome.
Right. We can have a discussion. I'm all for that. You don't have to agree with me. But one thing that I'm not going to do is put out a platform that is full with hostility, and unproductive conversations, because all that does is distract all of us from the real fight.
There's enough of that already out there.
Yeah, and we're not going to do it. And I don't argue about products. I'll tell you what I think is cool. I like to have fun. So you want to argue about products in a fun way, I'm your guy. Like, come over there and say, oh, that gun sucks. I'll be like, your mom sucks. Like just don't talk about that gun. Like, but it's fun banter, right?
Yeah,
I expect guys to come over there and tease
give
about,
and take.
Oh, you did a review on this gun.
Yeah.
I think it's crappy. I'm like, why do you think it's crappy? Like, you don't have to get into like technically the mechanics of it and the metals and it's probably, shut up. Why don't you like it? You think it's got a bad trigger? All right, well, I think the trigger's great. You suck. Like, let's have some fun with this. So
that's right.
Yeah, come over for fun. Don't come over for hostility, because I'm probably
that's
not.
Awesome.
And if I give it to you, you're not going to like it.
Kevin, I hope our paths cross soon. You figure out how to bring about 200 people and minister to your event in 2 weeks. I can try to talk my daughter into having a wedding in Missouri, right? So, yeah, I mean, you've already got the dinner planned. It sounds like so.
The dinner is planned, but don't fret, because I can tell you now that we're going to do it again next year.
Good.
Awesome.
Same weekend and everything.
I hope that our paths cross in person before then. But if not, when you're down here in Nashville, we've got to meet up. We got to meet up again.
Oh, yeah, dude, I'll be in town. And I'm staying down. I'm going to find me an Airbnb right in the smack dab middle of Nashville, so I can be an irresponsible adult and don't have to worry about driving.
Well, yeah, we may just have to bring you down here at some point, and we'll sit around and we'll see what you know about some whiskey.
Oh, well, okay. Challenge.
All right. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Man, I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. I really, really do appreciate this. I hope that you'll come back and talk to us again soon. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did. Sandy, you got any last words for Kevin or the listeners before we let this gentleman go?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure, you can.
How big do you want it to be? The aiming for the truth. When are you going to look at it and go, this is what I wanted? Like this is it. We've hit the goal. Like
full-time employment. That's what I do. My ultimate goal. That's a great question, and thank you for asking that. My ultimate goal would be, I would be doing that event nationwide all the time, every month, every weekend, everywhere, because not only is it the event, it's what we do outside of the event. So you can see Aiming for the Truth when it's not doing a big event. Aiming for the Truth is in schools, and we're giving back to students. I'm being a presence in the schools, not to talk about guns. I'm just being a positive male presence in the schools. We are, you can look and you can see us taking families out, feeding them. All this stuff is on social media. You can look at the fact that I'm able to take children that are, and there's one other important thing I have to tell you guys. And you can look at us taking kids out. There's something great that we got to do that did pertain to guns. It's with CMMG, the rifle manufacturer.
Right.
I was able to take, because they're in Missouri, I took 17 kids that were inner city kids, but I took 17 kids into CMMG. CMMG opened their doors. The kids got to do a factory tour.
Yeah,
man, that was so awesome. The guys hand cooked the lunch for the kids, right?
Oh wow!
So they put love into the food for the kids. The kids got to see people these kids, a lot of them were 16, 17 years old. Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, we were always told that these people are like racist or something.
Right.
But we got to break that. Like, they got to meet them, and they got to learn about guns in a cool, like, it's in pieces. And we're going to see it done. And on top of that, Aiming for the Truth does it with education. Like, so while we were there, the kids were prompted to talk about engineering and machinist careers. And the fact that they can design cars. They don't have to make a gun. They can make a car. Right. And all those things. So Aiming for the Truth is my life calling. And it is what I want to do. Whether that be at the events, motivational speaking. So like, I don't know if you guys follow motivational speakers.
Some.
But there's this guy named Eric Thomas.
Not familiar.
You look him up, man.
Okay.
You're talking about beast. Oh my God. But there's an event that's even going on, and it's this other organization. And I will highly advise your listeners to look this guy up too. If you're looking for a law enforcement officer to follow that brings a different perspective to law enforcement and community, is Breaking Barriers Beyond. Breaking Barriers Beyond. But they're having a It's Needed conference out in Carson, California, which is like an hour north of LA. And it is educators, leaders, all coming in to talk about how to fix the issues that society is facing and how to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the communities, and how to overall make communities better. And they thought enough of me to bring me out with speakers that are world known. Forget local. I'm talking about these guys are internationally known for dropping audiences to their knees. And they thought enough of me to bring me in.
That's powerful.
So it is doing that and being able to do God's work like that full time would be as how large I wanted to do, to where when I do training, I would always want to do that. It's like I got to fight to get open to go do some firearm training. So that's how big I want it to be. But so that's for Aiming for the Truth. The one important thing I forgot to tell you guys, in case any of your listeners are instructors, which I know you have instructors on a lot.
We do.
So real quick before we leave, and I want everybody to listen to me and listen to me carefully, especially if you're going to teach somebody something when it comes to saving their life or anything impacting their life. From doing instruction for all these years, I've had students that have gotten in shootouts, obviously from training some law enforcement. I've had regular Joes getting in shootouts. I've had some dangerous situations happen to my students. But what I never had happen is the phone call I got the Monday after NRA. So that next Monday, that day, I got home, and I want instructors to take what you're teaching important. And if you think you're doing it the right way, I want you to sit down at home and I want you to go over your stuff again and double check yourself. And students, I want you to take what your instructor says seriously, because this is truly about saving lives and impacting people in the right way. And it's why I take instruction important and why we're going to be teaching instructors how to translate information better to their students. I got back home to a flurry of text messages and a couple of phone calls from one of my female students who happened to be a single mom that was being stalked, which is the reason why she came to see me in the first place. Restraining order, 911 calls, the whole nine, kit and caboodle, everything she could have done, she did, until the home invasion happened. And this student said all she could do was hear my voice when it occurred, and she killed her attacker, right? She killed her attacker, but she survived, and so did her child, so did her 3-year-old child, right? Oh, your lights just went off.
Yeah.
So did her 3-year-old child. So, but hearing her tell me that all I could hear your voice coaching me through it makes me want to make sure people understand that when you are transferring this information about guns and gun rights to individuals, but especially about when it comes to self-protection, you need to do that with seriousness. You need to do it with a passion. If you are doing it just for a check, do me a favor, leave my industry.
Get out of the business. That's right.
Because it's nothing to be played with. Now, if you're making money and doing great teaching, fine. Hey, capitalism at its best, right? But if you're doing it just for a check and you're just kind of corralling people through in these big 40, 50 student classes and all that, you're not doing anybody a service. And if you're only doing it because money is your motivation and you're not really doing it for the to save a life and having that kind of connection with people where they can hear your voice coaching them through, life dangerous situations, leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's
so
right.
I wanted to share that.
Thank you. That is it. I mean, that is, there we are. We're kind of back to how we started the conversation about why we do the podcast. And it's to make people better prepared and make, good people ready to face the worst days of their lives. And that's that story right there in a nutshell. Yep. Kevin, you're doing a good work, man. I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. Thank you for spending your time with us this evening. My thanks to your family. They just gave up 3 hours with you for us. And so they don't know us. We appreciate them and the sacrifice that they just made this evening to let you be here with us. Thank you.
No, thank you guys.
Man, I look forward to doing this again. Come back anytime you want to.
Oh, we'll do, man.
All right. Kevin, I appreciate it, man. Have a good evening and a good weekend. Right. Thank you.
You too, guys.
All right. Problem. Take care. Hey, everybody. That was a pretty great conversation with Kevin Dixie, wasn't it? We hope that you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed having it and as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you guys. So we've already covered how you can connect with Kevin after the show, but here's how you can connect with us. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ShootersNation. You can find us on Instagram as @ShootersNationRadio. You can reach me by email at david@shootersnation.com, and you can reach Mark at shootersnation.com. Want to remind you guys that if you're in the market for a new holster or other firearms gear, be sure to head over to Squared Away Customs to check out what Mark and the gang have ready for you. Squared Away Customs manufactures custom Kydex holsters and other carry gear for civilians, law enforcement, and military. They're also a stocking Polymer 80 dealer, so be sure to use coupon code ShootersNation, that's all one word, ShootersNation, to save yourself some cash while you're shopping at their website. That's pretty much it for this episode. Sandy, have you got any thoughts before we let the folks go?
No, there was a lot of letters and handles and everything flying at the end there. So go check out shootersnation.com and we'll have links to all of Kevin's social medias and important websites and things. That way you don't have to write it all down or try to remember it while you're driving.
Yep. That's very true. And I'll make sure that we put it in the show notes as well. And if it's linkable, you will be able to click that on your iPhone or on your Android device or however you're listening. Of course, if you're listening from the shootersnation.com website itself, you'll see all that stuff on screen. So there you go. Anyway, so I guess that's a wrap. It's a long wrap. I think we hit a record here as predicted. I believe that we're well over 3 hours. So thanks to all of you who stuck it out with us. You asked for this stuff. You asked for it to be longer. So there you go. Don't complain. We'll talk to you again in a week. Until then, be safe out there.
preceding segment was a production of the Shooters Nation podcast. Visit us online at shootersnation.com.